Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of the Mangalorian. I hope you're doing well today. It's January 16th, 2029. And as of right now, we are a little under a week away from the Genki Dalmatsuri event, which will give us the future of Dragon Ball. But today, we have a special show for you because we're going to focus on the past of Dragon Ball and how it ties in with the present. Jordan, man, it's good to have you back here to discuss Dragon Ball once again.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this episode, for this special we're doing.
Yeah, this is going to be a great. I'm so excited for this, dude. So we're going to go real deep into Akira Toriyama. We're going to look at the original manga. We're going to look at the character of Son Goku. Now, I'm going to say this, and it may sound egotistical, but that is not my intent, okay? When Jordan and I did the Mangalorian, the idea was to take fans that are already Dragon Ball fans and like elevate them into the next stratosphere when it comes to like knowledge and understanding of the series. My whole YouTube channel is about that shit. That's what we're about, right? But Jordan focuses more on the journey to the west side of things, which is fine. I mean, that's his gimmick. He's the monkey guy. But together, like the whole thing is it's meant to make you appreciate the series even more than you already do. And that's the goal here. And so with the Mangalorian, we went super granular, but there is a higher level to go even more granular. And that's where our guest is going to kick in here. So once again, the topic is going to be on the character of Son Goku. We're going to talk about the original 42 from Pilaf to Buu, if you want to call it that, from boy to grandpa. Goku starts Dragon Ball as a boy and ends it as a grandfather. So you have like an entire man's life, basically. I mean, we can assume there are stories after that maybe Toriyama had in mind for Pan. We don't know currently what they wanted to do after the end of Zero, what Toriyama would have done. He's never really commented on it beyond like a few tidbits here and there. But the point is that the end of Dragon Ball is Goku as a grandfather of the original 42. So we're going to focus on that. So joining us, let me go ahead and introduce him, the sacred scholar himself, author, and the webmaster for the Tao of Dragon Ball, Derek Padula. Yo!
Hey, Danny. Hey, Jordan. Nice to see you guys.
I am so happy to have you here, man. Yeah, I know you joined us for the Super Magic show a little while ago. And when I was thinking about doing a show about the Arc of Goku, I was like, we should bring Derek in. And I remember Jordan himself wanted to do something with you.
Yeah, well, Jordan and I have worked together in the past. I host his manga,
right?
The Egyptian theme to Dragon Ball Infinity.
Yeah,
and Jordan knows the stuff, so I'm glad to be chatting with both of you guys, and this is gonna be a lot of fun.
Yes, it's going to be fun. Now, let me get this out of the way and, of course, give you the floor here. What I was talking about earlier is that the Mangalorian series, we had 42 streams, 43 if you count Jocko, one per volume. So Jordan and I went through from the very beginning all the way to the end of Toriyama's original work. Like, I'm not going to have a canon discussion on here, but no matter which way you slice it, everything we have, it's adapted from or inspired by the original 42. That is the master work, unquestionably. But if you want to go a level beyond, and this is for those of you who don't know, you got to check out Derek's books. I have one right here. I have the full set that's been out so far, Dragon Ball Culture. So this book is one of 7. I think the first 6 are out paperback. I'll let Derek explain more. And there's the last one that just finished recently. So this is even more granular. If Jordan and I were to adapt this into videos, it'd be like an 80-hour video because Derek goes through page by page, panel by panel, examining everything that inspired Toriyama and the hidden messages within Dragon Ball. This is just one of all. And look how thick this is. So if you're one of the Dragon Ball fans that actually can read and you want to elevate your knowledge even higher, this is about as high as it gets because you can't fit this knowledge into a video. This is as high as it gets. Not how high I'm going to get here in a minute, but check out Dragon Ball Culture and the Tao of Dragon Ball. Derek, you talk more about it since you're the one who wrote this.
Thanks, Danny. That was a great introduction. Yes, that's volume 2, and this right here is volume 1 of 7. And you can see right there is the Monkey King and Son Goku. Son Wukong is this Chinese.
That's Jordan's porno magazine right there, boy. He looks at the cover.
And this cover was designed by a fan in Spain who does amazing artwork, just like Toriyama's original. His name's Javier. He's incredible. So that's my life's work, the 7 volumes of Dragon Ball Culture. And it's like a master's degree in Dragon Ball. So it's your cultural tour guide to the entire series and the 5,000 years of history and culture that inspired it. From East Asian culture in China and Japan and Bali as well, where Toriyama visited for the Tenkaichi Budokai, to Western culture with Hollywood films, and then you got Hong Kong with Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee, and the way that all of these things fuse together through Toriyama's genius with science fiction and horror films and everything else that he loved, including the World War II military. And like Danny said, I go through every single detail and show you where Akira Toriyama was inspired to create this amazing series and how it continues to inspire us today. So if you love Dragon Ball, that's the series to get. And I also have written my first book, Dragon Ball Z, It's Over 9,000, which is all about the psychology of Goku and Vegeta. And this is the French edition, Des Visions du Monde en Collision. My French is not very good, but this translation is excellent. And it's also available in Italian and Spanish. And I've got this book, Dragon Soul, 30 Years of Dragon Ball Fandom. It's all about Dragon Ball fans around the world. It's got over 500 images in it, all about how Dragon Ball inspired people to become artists, cosplayers, YouTubers, actors, film directors. And it has interviews with the people from Funimation who made the series, including voice actors and producers. And it's really a giant spirit bomb of love from one Dragon Ball fan to everyone else.
I'm still salty I wasn't in that book, bro. I'm still salty about that. I'm still salty, right? But I was just starting out at that point, bro. I wasn't the legend that I'm fucking around. But no, I will tell you, because this is my channel, so I assume people here know me as far as like with all the content. This is, if you're a Dragon Ball fan, you should have these, I feel. And one of the most fun things you can do is the next time that you're rereading the manga, you can read the manga, have it open, whether it be digitally or, the actual book, and then read this and go panel by panel. And that's a fun thing to do. And you will know so much that this book is sort of like a 7,000 trivia questions put into one. So if you want to stump your dubby friends, you can ask them questions like, who did Akira Toriyama meet on his vacation in China? I don't know who that is. Antoine Budiyasa. Oh, I know who that is. No, you don't. Nobody knows who that is. But if you read the book, you'll know. So, yeah.
And my books are available on Amazon, Google Play, Apple Books, and my store, thedaoofdragonball.com. So please check them out. And if you want signed copies, just let me know. I'm happy to ship them all over the world.
Yeah, and there's different language versions too. But the Tao of Dragon Ball is the place for them to go to, like get everything right.
Yeah, your website's great too. I definitely think people should go check out your website as well.
Thank you very much, Jordan.
I should probably put it on the screen, see if I can. Okay, yeah. So this is the website right here for everybody. I should have written in the description. I think that I did. And here's the thing about Dragon Ball Culture Volume 7. You're not done. There's still how many more books do you have left on this? Because there's more coming.
Yeah, I'd like to do Dragon Ball Z Culture and then GT Culture and Daima Culture now. And then, of course, I've got like 30 other books that are in various states of progress that I haven't disclosed.
You'll be doing this the rest of your life, bro.
Busy man.
I will. Yeah, and it's thanks to Dragon Ball fans that I can. So I'm grateful to everyone who supports my work and who shares it and leaves positive reviews. I would not be able to do this without you guys. So thank you very much.
I certainly hope you get them all put out, because the one thing that I worry about is you're gonna pull a freaking George R.R. Martin and you're gonna like get all the way to Dragon Ball Z Culture like 13, and there's one left. There's one volume left, and then you're gonna die, and then we're gonna get, because you're gonna be an old man, right? You'll be an old man in your 60s. And you'll be going to your mailbox and everyone's going to be sending you messages. Finish the book, finish the book. Then you're going to die before you finish the book. I hope that doesn't happen.
Damn, I'm sure that's probably a real concern from Derek, too. I'm sure he's thought of that. You're like giving him PTSD right now.
No, I'm not even trying. I mean, it's funny, but it's like, this is so much work that it might actually take until he's an old man. Like, I'm for real.
No, it is a lot of work.
Yeah, the only way I could do it is if I had an assistant, or I start using AI to like assist me in some way.
That would be controversial.
I will be, but like there's too much to write for one man. Like most authors of nonfiction books only write maybe like 5, to 8 books if they really pour their heart and soul into it. And I've got too much that I want to accomplish. So I am my own funnel, and I have to find a way past that. And I'm going to have to experiment, see what works.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. So I'm excited because there's stuff that you find in your research that like is just phenomenal. So check out the Tao of Dragon Ball. Let me get through these real quick messages that I got here as super chats. Thank you, Kiryu the Dragon Warrior, for becoming a member. Bob Zor says, let's take bets on Jordan's internet going out today. I think it's okay today.
It seems good today, but I'll take, the odds are never good.
I feel you. Kiryu with the $50 super chat. Thank you so much for your generosity. This is a big one. He writes, reading minus to Namek is perfect. Seeing Goku being sent to Earth because of Frieza's fear of the SSJ, then seeing Goku using the Earthling ideology he learned from Earth and use that with his Saiyan biology and turning into the LSSJ is amazing. It is a wonderful arc for Goku, but here's the thing about this stream. Yes, that is part of Goku's arc, but there's so much more than just that. That is something that we discovered at the beginning of the Z era. And one of the things that I just want to get this out of the way right now, because everyone that I'm on this stream with is going to agree with me. I know you all will, but I want the world to finally accept this. Look, I know that video games and a lot of the treatment of the series makes people think otherwise, but here's the truth. Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z are the same show. The only difference is that there's a Z at the end of the final 4 arcs. That's the only difference. Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z is one big story. It's Toriyama's vision, well, sort of, with extra stuff in the anime version. But the point is that even though Viz puts Z on the final chapters of Dragon Ball, it should never be viewed. So what I'm trying to say is this. The arrival of Raditz is not the first arc. It's like the 8th arc or 7th arc. So the reason why I'm saying all this is because when Goku was revealed to be an alien in Japan, when the manga was first being published in Weekly Shonen Jump, people had already been reading his adventures. They already saw him fight Red Ribbon, Demon King Piccolo. Now he's grown up, and suddenly there's this massive twist that nobody saw coming, although there are some clues along the way, that Goku's an alien. How must the Japanese have reacted to that back in 1989? Like, what do you think?
Jordan, go for it.
It's a crazy twist, but
I think it's honestly, one of the best retcons in history, I think.
It's such an appropriate twist if you kind of have an understanding of like what Toriyama's thinking there, because the type of ideology that Goku practices is the type of ideology that they used to try to teach to barbarians, like in ancient China. It's like that Shaolin monk kung fu attitude mentality. They essentially kind of use that to tame more wild barbaric people who would come in and threaten others. So it's really, really appropriate within that context for somebody like Raditz to show up, who is a barbarian who like plunders and steals and stuff like that to meet his brother who's been changed by this ideology that he's learned on Earth. To me, it is really cool that he becomes an alien, but what I really like about it personally is the ideological divide between Goku and Raditz, and like where Toriyama is kind of getting his inspiration for each character. I really love that aspect of it.
Derek, without revealing all the secrets that you have for Dragon Ball Z Culture Volume 1, because I know you're going to get into all this in that book. And by the way, guys, we are going to go back to Kid Goku here, but there's a reason why I wanted to kind of start this. I feel like had Toriyama never revealed that Goku was an alien, think about what we would have never gotten. No Vegeta, no Super Saiyan anything. All the alien species that we met, Frieza, the demonic. We may have gotten a demonic villain, like because we got one with Piccolo, but like all of the super stuff with the multiverse. Toriyama going beyond planet Earth, beyond all the stories he told on Earth, changed this series forever. None of what we got would have been the same had he not come up with this twist. And to me, it's exactly like when George Lucas determined that Anakin Skywalker was Darth Vader, because if it wasn't for that twist, so much of modern Star Wars would have never happened. I feel, in my opinion, Goku being revealed as an alien and Darth Vader being Luke's father are the two greatest retcons in the history of fiction, not just because they opened up the stories for Toriyama and Lucas and everybody else, but because of how financially successful they were. Goku being an alien made a lot of money. So, Derek, what do you have to add to, this idea that Toriyama came up with essentially in the, like I said, the 7th or 8th arc of the story?
Right. So we're jumping right into the middle here.
We're going to go back.
We are going to go back, but this is the point where so many people entered the series, in America in particular. And a lot of people say, start with DBZ and all that other stuff. So I feel like this is an important moment in Goku's life, and I wanted to focus on that.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because behind the scenes, Akira Toriyama changed his editors. He was working with Torishima-san, Kazuhiko Torishima, and then he left, and Yu Kondo came in as his second editor. And he was used to working in shoujo, which is girls manga, which has more sentimentality and emotions and family relationship issues in it. And it was Yu Kondo's idea to make Goku a family man, because when we had left off, Goku left with Chi-Chi after the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai, and then there's a time skip. 5 years later, Goku is married and he has a son, and then his brother shows up out of nowhere. Like all this family stuff appears, and it's like a complete shift in Goku's personality. And what happens after that, it goes in a different direction. Prior to that, Torishima and Toriyama had created Goku's personality, shaped it to be somebody who was focused on the quest for greater strength. And it was sort of self-serving, and there wasn't much more to go beyond the idea of becoming the kami. But Goku actually said no to that after winning the tournament and after defeating Piccolo. So there had to be some other place to go, and this was the perfect place to go, where Goku now has a new identity and a new struggle, and he has to face his Saiyan heritage, this whole genetic side of him that he didn't even know existed. And that's where Vegeta gets introduced on purpose to appeal to young female readers, because his editor knew how to appeal to female readers who read shoujo manga. So Vegeta he's the brooding, dark. He's like the guy that women are attracted to, whereas Goku is the kind-hearted, pure individual who is fighting for different reasons. And this creates a contrast of opposites. And I talk about in my Over 9,000 book, they are genetically pure-blooded Saiyans, 100%, almost identical in terms of their genetics, except for that class hierarchy structure of the super elites and Goku being trash, but genetically they're aligned. But where they differ is in their worldviews because of how they were raised by different people. And
like the nature versus nurture thing.
Exactly right. Yeah. And so Goku has to go through this psychological battle on the inside alongside the battle against his brother dying, training with King Kai, and going through all of these things on Snake Way, these difficulties, so he can come back. He's also struggling against who he is, his heritage, his Saiyan heritage. So that creates a much more interesting dynamic than just continuing to fight stronger opponents or another demon or something like that. Because now he's sort of fighting himself. He's fighting somebody who's just like him, but with a different worldview. And this creates a more interesting conflict and creates better situations when Vegeta arrives on Earth and starts killing Goku's friends, and Goku has to get there on time to do all sorts of things to save them and save the world. He's not just fighting for himself, he's fighting for others. And that those moments, that battle on Earth, is what a lot of people picture as Goku. They think of him as somebody who fights for someone else or fights to protect others or the world or the universe. When prior to that, he was really a loner, and he spent years alone or up at the top at Kami's lookout, just with Popo and Kami, and also training with Karin and doing all these other things, and then living with hermit after hermit. He was a loner, but now things shifted, and there's a lot of character growth that happens because of this shift. There's a lot of psychology going on in these moments, and I think for that reason, it's a great place to start because it gives people something to grab onto, and it speaks to their nostalgia. Maybe they grew up with the series, they started with DBZ, or who knows. But this is a pivotal moment that really speaks to Goku's both his Saiyan nature and his humanity as raised by Son Gohan and Kame-sen.
What's funny about what you said, there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot to unpack there, and I want to go back and I actually really want to go back. Next we're going to go back to Kid Goku because I wanted to, because the thing about this series is that Goku has an overarching arc, but he's got little arcs in the series too, where he's changing and the people around. See, what I love about Goku is he changes the people around him, but the people around him also influence him. But it's mostly him changing the people around him. And every person that comes into contact with Goku, usually through fighting, ends up being changed afterward. Happened to Vegeta, happened to Frieza, happened to Ten Shin Han, everyone. But what's funny is that you said that Vegeta was created for sex appeal. And that put a smile on my face because I don't think there's anybody in this entire fandom that knows more about girls that love Vegeta than me. And we'll just leave it at that. Yeah. But probably nobody. All right.
Yeah. Well, have you seen my article?
Probably never will be. Go ahead.
About why people are attracted to Vegeta and his sex appeal? There's been studies done on the fact that many women and homosexual men try to change the bad boy, and they're attracted to the bad boy because they think they can change them, but they struggle to do that, and that's the attraction, is the tension. And Vegeta is the ultimate bad boy. He does so many things for himself. He murders countless people, and he ends up with Bulma, who, out of the blue, and of course his physique is amazing too. But what's fascinating to me is that also there's a cultural divide, because in Japan, Goku is actually considered better boyfriend material than Vegeta is. He ranks higher in online polls for who's a better boyfriend. But in the West, it's the total opposite. Women love Vegeta way more than they love Goku, and they think that Goku is kind of derpy or a little too innocent and pure-hearted to ravage them the way that they want him to.
It's just ravage them. Okay.
That's what I've heard. They love Vegeta because they want a man who will ravage them in the bedroom and will manhandle them. And they don't think Goku can do that. They think Vegeta can do that.
Oh, they both can do it, but as we know, but you're giving me flashbacks, bro. I gotta stop this. So let's go back. Okay, Jordan actually wanted me to pull up this image. Now, I want to make something clear to you guys about this image. This is from Dragon Ball Minus. So Toriyama wrote Dragon Ball Minus in 2013, way after the original Dragon Ball manga was written. The original manga started in 1984, as we know, and it ended in 1995. Then Toriyama took a long break, a very long break, and came back with Jocko, and then we have Minus. Now, the reason why, and I'm going to get to Jordan here in a minute, the reason why this panel is important is I want to talk about Grandpa Gohan's effect on Goku, because I don't think people truly understand the reason as to why Goku is so lighthearted, the reason as to why Goku is the guy who he is because of Grandpa Gohan. It's because of being raised, like Derek said, it's nature versus nurture. And I'll be honest, I actually want to come back with you guys and do a Vegeta episode in the future at some point, because that would be fun as well. Yeah, that'd be fun. So Jordan, what is it about Grandpa Gohan that shaped Goku into being what he became, the Goku that we all know and love?
Well, if you look at this image, he is telling Goku that if he wasn't a martial arts expert, he wouldn't have been able to tame Goku. And what you're seeing here is just a more blatant reflection of what Goku does with all of his future friends and the villains that he faces within the series. Essentially, Goku, when he meets somebody like Vegeta, Piccolo, all these characters that he tames, so to speak, he got that ability from Grandpa Gohan and his ability to use martial arts. Not only that, his nature, like his earthling nature, comes from Grandpa Gohan. It is nature versus nurture, but also when Goku hit his head and he was raised by Grandpa Gohan, he was raised by Grandpa Gohan during a key period of his psychological development. And so Grandpa Gohan is essentially responsible for, he's sort of like the moral grandfather of Dragon Ball. Like the entire, like everything that Goku does that is considered right in Dragon Ball is a reflection of what he learned from Grandpa Gohan. So
the humanity, he's the most, he is the most human Saiyan that's a pure blood, the most, even more so than Broly.
Now, if you look at this image, I'm pretty sure what Toriyama was thinking of here when he drew this image was the original Goku Vegeta fight, because there's a very, very similar conversation that takes place whenever Goku and Vegeta first meet each other, because Goku essentially tells Vegeta that if he wasn't raised on Earth, that he probably couldn't handle Vegeta. If it wasn't for his martial arts expertise, he probably couldn't have kept up and had the effect that he had on Vegeta. So Grandpa Gohan is very particular. He's very important to that particular arc. And that's the reason they actually call back Grandpa Gohan in that arc, is because Vegeta, like Derek was saying, is kind of a reflection of the other aspects of Goku's nature that he's basically trying to repress and control as a side effect of being raised on Earth by Grandpa Gohan. So Grandpa Gohan is essentially almost like the other aspect of Goku's nature, and Vegeta and the Saiyans in general are a reflection of essentially his dual nature. Part of his nature is very similar to what you see here, and I think Bardock as a character was designed to sort of reflect, what Goku would be like had he not hit his head. That's why you'll notice, like in that panel before, whenever Grandpa Gohan and Goku are together, Goku's really wild. And, it's kind of implied that he would like naturally, even Toriyama talked about this in interviews. And I actually think that's part of the reason that he pointed out that Goku was hungry here. It's kind of implied that once Goku's like survival instincts kicked in, and he would be in a kill or die situation, that is sort of what would trigger Goku going and having the attitude that Raditz and a lot of other Saiyans
his
develop. Yeah, because they essentially they fall into this pattern of, well, I'm in a survival situation. I've got to kill someone in order to survive, and then they attain that bloodlust, and that's what causes them to essentially fall further into being someone like Raditz. Gohan essentially took what this is what's so genius about it is it's very similar to like when somebody tames an actual animal. He took Goku's violent nature and he picked something that is catered to taming your violent nature, which is martial arts. Martial arts is essentially an outlet specifically catered to take the aspects of Goku that are dangerous and point them towards something productive.
And that's it in real life too, by the way.
Yeah, and Grandpa Gohan is essentially definitive of that. He's the
if you
entire
have
reason
anger issues, if you, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, you're fine. That's it. I was done.
No, I was just gonna say, if you have anger issues, taking martial arts is a good way to get it out because you learn how to get it out in a healthy way. And I don't mean get it out by knocking someone out. I mean like you when you do the exercises and the forms. You know, I want to address this comment here because I think you're wrong about this, Milt. She says, not gonna lie, Kid Goku was a savage. He murdered folks without hesitation. And then it says, go on for it about not killing people. No, that's wrong, bro. You are wrong. Anytime that Goku kills in the manga, he's killing somebody who deserves it. Goku does not kill innocent people, bro. When Goku killed Drum, when he didn't kill Tao Pai Pai, but we thought he killed him. Anytime Goku finishes somebody off, bro, it's not an innocent person. It's somebody he does it to save other lives.
Well, he kills in like a state of no mindness. Like he kills when he's killing someone, he's not doing it with conscious malicious intent. That's the reason he can still ride the Nimbus and run around killing Red Ribbon Army soldiers. He's still pure of heart while he's doing those things. He's not doing protecting it with other people. Conscious malicious intentions. Exactly. And that's the important distinction. And that really is more so Goku's struggle in Dragon Ball is his struggle to maintain that purity. And I think that's something that kind of gets lost amongst the readers. They think it's about Goku, fighting, when really that's not the case. I've heard a lot of people complain about there not being stakes in Dragon Ball, but personally, the more temptation I see in the story for Goku to essentially abandon his teachings as a martial artist, that is where I see the stakes in Dragon Ball. The more the villains push Goku and tempt him to, which the Namek arc is completely centered around this concept.
Frieza.
The more the villains push him and tempt him to, just completely disregard what he was taught as a martial artist. That is where the tension comes from me, because you can see the actual struggle within Goku to abandon those things, because the temptation there is very strong in a lot of different situations. So,
Derek, there's a contrast between that Red Ribbon Army arc where he mows through the soldiers and when he's fighting against Frieza, man to man, and it's just the two of them on the exploding planet, and we see that amazing illustration by Toriyama where he's looking down at Frieza, and you see that sadness.
The one that DBZ recut put back in.
Yeah. That you can see it in Goku's eyes. He did not want to kill him. He even gave him his energy in order to save his life, despite all of the horrible things that he did and the way that he killed Krillin and murdered countless Namekians. So Goku, this is why I think Goku is such an interesting character. People say he's simple and superficial and he never changes and all these other things. But if you go through the original manga and you really pay attention to Goku's character arc and the way he interacts with people, and you can see that he does change. There's a lot of depth and psychology. Yeah, that's the one. That's great. So you can. Thanks, man. That's a great visual to talk about while I'm describing what's going on in Goku's mind, because Toriyama has to express what's going on inside of him through his illustrations, and there's just so much. There's so much to that goes beyond the action. And I think sometimes people get lost in the action. Of course, it's the greatest action anime of all time, but there's a lot more to it than that. And I love discussing all of those subtle things. That's where I get. Some people love power levels. and they love, other aspects of the series. I love discussing these cultural details and these psychological, introspective things.
Same.
That's the way my mind works. I think
No,
that's
this is
a
the
lot of
right
fun.
place for that. This is the right
Just
place
to
for
acknowledge the actual chat, though, because the actual chat said that Grandpa Gohan didn't teach Goku not to kill, and that's just not
That's
true.
what yeah, correct.
Yeah, the first time that Goku kills Major Metallatron is what a lot of people know him as, the Terminator reference character. He actually does like a Buddhist prayer and asks for forgiveness because Grandpa Gohan did teach him as a kid that killing is wrong. It's just that Goku himself didn't learn why it's actually wrong in the physical sense through experience until what we see, as the story progresses. He's still a kid. Just because he has, a good nature and he's been taught morals doesn't mean he actually understands the nuance or the depth of killing someone. So he has to go through those experiences in order to learn what exactly all this is. Like, he actually has to experience those things. He's still an inexperienced kid who's just dealing with extremely high stakes, unrealistic situations for him to deal with at his age. He of course he's not going to have an easy time dealing with an entire army attacking him and trying to take over the earth.
Yeah. So. And I also want to mention, you talked about Grandpa Gohan earlier. I found out by reading my copy of Birdland Press that Grandpa Gohan died 2 years before Bulma arrived in chapter 1 of the series. And this appeared in Birdland Press, volume 15, in an interview or like a little expose about the new series that was coming out called Dragon Ball, when Dr. Slump was ending. And he says, Goku's grandfather, this is Toriyama's words. He says, Goku's grandfather, a master of Taoist hermit arts, taught him martial arts, but he passed away 2 years ago, so Goku now lives alone. So that means that Goku transformed into the Ozaru when he was 10, and then he lived alone on Mount Paozu for 2 years before meeting Bulma. So, first of all, Grandpa Gohan was the only human that Goku knew in life. And suddenly, without his knowledge, he was gone. He doesn't know where he went or that he killed him. And then he meets Bulma. And of course, he's threatened by Bulma at first, but he remembers Gohan's words to treat girls with respect, right? Treat them kindly. So he doesn't hurt her. And that's the first transformation of a rival becoming his friend, right? They had this battle, this conflict where she shot him in the face and then became his friend, like almost instantly, right? All in chapter 1. And Goku continues to do that with every character that he meets and fights against, including Krillin and so many others. And they all become his friend. And with Grandpa Gohan's death and other deaths in the series, Goku is aware of what that means because he's had to survive on his own by killing animals, and he just hasn't done it with people, right? And so it doesn't take on the same gravitas of taking a human life. And there's a lot going on there, but it's an amazing start. It's the prelude that we never even knew about. We didn't know that Grandpa Gohan died when he was 10, and they lived alone for 2 years. So imagine living in the mountains by yourself and surviving off of wild animals and vegetation until you meet someone else who takes you on a wild adventure. That's a life that very few of us can relate to. But there are feral children out there in the world. There are people who have experienced this type of thing, and unfortunately, many of them end up with minds that are incapable of handling other people and civilization and adult responsibilities and things like that. But Goku is an incredible subject to study because he manages to cope in his own way through martial arts that were taught to him by Grandpa Gohan. And it becomes the vehicle for his entire life and all of his transformations that follow. It's all done through martial arts, through this Eastern worldview of holistic physical and mental transformation. And I know a lot about that because I studied with the Shaolin monks. I trained with the monks in Beijing, and I know how much suffering is involved in doing the exercises, the stance work and the fighting and everything else. And I know how it feels to hurt someone and to knock them unconscious, and the uncertainty of whether or not they're going to be okay after you've done that to them. And in my case, I did not enjoy that. I know that there are people who love to fight and hurt others for the sake of hurting others, and they get a thrill out of that. I did not feel that way. I felt a deep sense of like fear of what I had maybe done to someone else. And like in a karate tournament, I knocked someone out with a punch, and then they made me turn around and kneel down, and I couldn't see what was going on behind me. And I didn't know if that man was going to get up again or if he had brain damage or what. That was one of the scariest things I've ever been involved in.
I never knew that. Holy shit.
Yeah. So after that, I really gave more thought to the idea of fighting in tournaments and fighting others, entering boxing tournaments, things like that. Because I also fought in Tough Man competition once, which is an amateur boxing league, which I was just on a lark because it came to my town. But anyway, Goku knows about all of this, and he knows about life and death and hurting people and what's involved in all of that. And he manages to stay pure-hearted and stay focused on martial arts because that's his vehicle of transformation. And it's also, of course, what Akira Toriyama was inspired by, with Jackie Chan films and Bruce Lee films, and everything that goes into Dragon Ball is made by Toriyama's inspirations of growing up as a child watching these things. So there's really so much to it, and I could talk about this endlessly. So let's go on to the next moment in Goku's life.
No, look, talk about it endlessly is okay. That's why we're here. But that's fine. No, actually, what I was going to talk about is this meeting of Goku and Bulma. Something that people need to understand about this is that this Dragon Ball story. So people try to say, like, what is the genre? Is it comedy? Well, there's comedy in it. It's written by a gag manga author. Is it action? Yes, unquestionably. Is it science fiction? Especially in the Z portion, it is, right? All that applies. Wuxia is really what the core of this series is. It is a martial arts based series. Yes, in real life we can't fly around and shoot fireballs, but it's still centered in the martial arts. And what people have to understand about Goku, why he works as a protagonist, is Bulma. So Goku represents the Eastern philosophy. He lives in an Eastern looking house. He's in the forest, like Derek said, he survives on his own. And here comes Bulma, who represents the West, technology, civilization, having grocery stores so you don't have to hunt for food. So Goku meeting Bulma was already like a mind fuck for him because he did not. It's no different than if we were to go into one of these like deep jungle tribes, or like right now in the world, or on an island that like is desolate except for a few tribes. Like they don't know what an iPhone is. They don't have access to any of that stuff. And that's what Goku is. And Bulma actually represents, when I say the West, I mean the United States and the UK, like technology, imperialism, all that stuff. Goku's being exposed to that, and what Toriyama's doing is he's fusing East and West. One of the people in the past asked me once, they go, why do you think Dragon Ball is so popular? Why do you think that Dragon Ball gets over in any damn country it comes out in? Mexico, America, Canada, every country in Europe, China, all of South America practically. Why is this show so popular? One of the big reasons, and this manga, both, is because it's not inherently Asian. There's enough Western things in this story, whether it be cars, vehicles, motorcycles, and the way people behave, that any culture around the world can read this and understand it. It's not one of those things where you have to understand Japanese culture. Like, it's not written. Toriyama, I don't think, wrote this. I mean, he may have written it for the Japanese, but he may not even realize that.
He wanted it to be universally appealing.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, is that it went far beyond that. And Bulma is basically like the American girl, and Goku's like the Asian boy, and then that's sort of like where the story starts. And as we follow Goku along, we're introduced to cities like West City. We're introduced to all these different villages he goes to, like the Muscle Tower area and the snow and all that. And you know, we're following Goku. Then we finally, in the Piccolo arc, Goku goes and fights. People forget this. Goku fought the final battle with Demon King Piccolo at the Tower of the Ruler of the World, right outside of it. That would be like fighting in front of the White House, in our, like, having the final battle in front of the White House, right? It's like the culmination of Goku's journey on Earth. So we've seen all of Earth. What's next? We got to go up. And that's where Goku discovers the heavenly realm, which is Kami's lookout in the dub. It's really the heavenly realm. It's literally referred to as heaven. It's not the heaven that like the Christian, Judeo-Christian Bible discusses, but it's Toriyama's little like fun heaven. But then in the Z portion, Goku dies and we follow him into the afterlife. This is the first story that I ever read or saw where like the afterlife is. I know Yu Yu Hakusho did it too later on. The afterlife is like it's like part of the story, and now we get to see what happens when you die, and now we get to see the main Toriyama to kill Goku off. Just that is ballsy. And actually, and Derek, I'd like you to talk a little bit more about this. What I'm about to ask you is, and I've done videos on this, but I think we should talk about it. Toriyama choosing to grow Goku up was a very, very controversial decision at the time. I don't think people in America understand that that was not something that people were expecting.
That's right. It was forbidden in shonen manga to age your character because the target demographic is 12-year-old boys. So if you make a character who's older than that, it's no longer shonen, it's now seinen. You're talking to young adults or adults. So when Akira Toriyama told his editor, Kazuchika Torishima, I am going to age Goku, Torishima flipped out and said, you like can't do that. Like, we're going to get so many complaints. People aren't going to like that Goku. But Toriyama said, no, I have no choice. I can't keep doing this action content that you wanted me to do with Goku's short limbs. I need to make him taller and have his limbs grow out so I can have more angular action. And so that was the main reason why he had to age him. And so he jumped ahead 3 years. And Torishima was like, man, we're going to get so many angry calls about this. And he was sitting there by the phone, and the whole day went by and he didn't get a single call complaining about it. So he was proven wrong by Toriyama.
And yeah, Toriyama's done that to him quite a few times, actually. He'll sneak and do something that, you know, editorial-wise, Torishima doesn't want him to do, and then it turns out to be an amazingly great decision. That's something I respect a lot about Toriyama.
Yes, and it does take a lot of balls to do that because there's a hierarchy in Japan, and the editor is at the top, and you can't just disobey your editor like that, which, of course, Toriyama had a ton of his ideas rejected, and he was always salty about that. But sometimes he would push back and do what he wanted to do anyway. And so we're so glad that he did, because that led to Goku growing stronger and fighting bigger opponents and evolving as a character. And then he eventually becomes an adult and has his own family, and it completely changed the whole dynamic of shonen manga. And Toriyama was inventing it as he went along. So that's even more impressive. He was the first one to do that. And there was no guide to follow. He created the guide for other manga authors to follow, such as Masashi Kishimoto with Naruto. And I mean, so many other shonen manga authors who grew up on Dragon Ball. So Toriyama was a trailblazer for that reason and so many others. And I feel like when you know these behind the scenes details, it makes you have an even deeper appreciation of Dragon Ball.
I do think it's interesting that he also immediately introduced Gohan.
That I was just gonna say, he was smart about it. You want a kid pro tag? Here you go.
Yeah, so even if they wanted to try and give him hell at that point, he's like, "Well, I have a new kid protagonist," you know. So yeah, I always thought that was very interesting too.
And then when Gohan grew up, Goten was introduced, and then in GT, Goku became a kid again. So that's and I made a video about it. The video's called, I think, "Why Goku Became a Kid Again in GT," and it was literally that's the reason. But that wasn't Toriyama's decision. That was Kozo Morishida's decision. But like Derek said, he was following the tradition of having a kid protagonist. This super chat, bro. All right, I can tell you came in late. He killed the main character in the first arc. Early DBZ was cutthroat. You must have missed what I said earlier. We need to stop this, bro. Saiyan Saga is not the first arc. It's getting to the point now where I'm not mad at you, but it's a little irritating because this is the exact opinion that I'm trying to snuff out. I hate this. The Saiyan Saga is not the first arc. You understand? Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z are one big series. That's objective.
And the last Tenkaichi Budokai at the end of the original Dragon Ball run enhances the Saiyan Saga tenfold. So separating it like that, you're doing yourself a disservice, because even if you don't read any of the rest of Dragon Ball, just knowing what happens in that tournament enhances what happens in the Saiyan Saga so much.
Not to mention, it also closes off a bunch of storylines, brings Chi-Chi back. They get married. Tao Pai Pai and Ten Shin Han have their showdown. The son of Piccolo. The 23rd tournament, Toriyama could have ended it there, genuinely. And it may not have picked up the kind of steam that it did with Super Saiyans and Frieza and all that. But I think if Toriyama ended it there, the series would still be respected and loved, because that's a good ending. Now, I want to talk about the martial arts aspect with you guys, because Toriyama has talked in the past about how he's not really a big fan of pro wrestling. However, I know for a fact he watched it at least a few times, because there's so much of that in Dragon Ball. And I want to talk about one of the early arcs. This is actually for the DB portion before Z, and that is Goku is introduced to the Tenkaichi Budokai, which is the World Martial Arts Tournament. It literally translates to like tournament under the heavens, greatest under the heavens tournament. And Toriyama, being the genius that he is, because a lot of other writers would have just had Goku win the first tournament. That is not what he did. He lost in the finals to Jackie Chun. The second tournament, he lost in the finals to Ten Shin Han by a technical reason. Finally, in the third tournament, Goku becomes champion of the world and is labeled the strongest under the heavens. That right there, that story of Goku coming this close to being world champion and failing twice, that's professional wrestling storytelling. In Japan, there's tournaments. There's a tournament called the G1 Climax, and there's another one called the Champions Carnival. The two biggest Japanese companies do these tournaments. There's no question Toriyama saw a little bit of that, and he had what is the consistent? What is the one thing we've said over and over again? This man had balls, because to have your protagonist lose, but then when he wins, it's so much sweeter. That panel where he jumps up and he's like, "I'm the champion," after losing twice. Victory feels so much better after you've dealt with defeat. And Goku is a good loser. He's not a sore loser. Derek, can you speak on that? Do you have anything to add to that?
I do. Many things. Yes.
Okay.
The first one is that Akira Toriyama is a contrarian, and he always does the opposite of whatever you want to see or expect.
Subverts the audience.
Yes. And when he was writing the first Tenkaichi Budokai, the 21st tournament, everyone around him, from his editor to his fellow manga authors to his family members, said, well, of course Goku's going to win the tournament. He's the main character. You have to have him win. Everyone roots for the main character. So Toriyama heard that, and he said, oh, really? Do I? how about I do the opposite of that and I have him lose? And that decision is amazing because it's like it reminds me of when Toriyama was working with it. Yeah, there's Jackie Chun. Toriyama was working with his editor Torishima, and Torishima said, "You have to have a picture of yourself with your full face in the Shonen Jump magazine because that's what all the authors do." And Toriyama said, "No, I don't want to do that. I don't want people seeing my face." He said, "Well, you have to do it. I'm forcing you to do it. Take a picture of yourself." So he took a picture of himself urinating in a bathroom stall and looking back at the camera with a big smile on his face, just to
I love that man. I
yeah,
love that man,
just
bro.
to stick it to him. So
I love that guy.
he did things like this all the time, and I love him. I love him for it, and I think it made the character so much more interesting, like you said, because then you get invested in Goku's struggle. You're not just watching him fight and then win. You watching, you see him lose, which is so much more relatable to real life because anybody who has tried to do anything with their life has struggled and failed, and it's the struggle that leads to victory that makes it so satisfying. And that's why when he jumps up at the end of the 2013 Kajibuka, you feel that same euphoria that Goku feels. And Toriyama expresses that through his character in such a way that like when I read it, it makes me teary-eyed because I've struggled a lot to make this my career and do other things. I've sacrificed a lot. I used to be a web developer. I was making good money. I gave all that up to write about Dragon Ball for a living, and to talk about Dragon Ball like this with fellow fans and the guys in the chat. You guys are awesome, and that is tough to do, to follow your passion like Goku does, to make all of the sacrifices and go through all of the struggle and feel all of the pain and to endure all of that and then come out victorious. That's what makes it so satisfying and relatable, and that's why I've always loved Goku.
I mean, bro, I love the fact that he lost twice. Like that just added so much. And then, of course, after that, we didn't get a tournament for years. Because why? Goku won. If you're just joining us and you're coming in late, which is, I would recommend stick around, but later on, make sure that you watch the entire stream from beginning to end. Once again, if you're coming in late, Derek has books called Dragon Ball Culture at the DaoofDragonBall.com. The link should be in the description. Like I said before, this is an even more granular. There's the first one. This is the second one. It's even more granular than the Mangalorian because Derek goes in panel by panel and tells you the meaning of pretty much everything. So it's if you want to go to the highest PhD level of Dragon Ball knowledge that only a few people in this world have, you got to get the books. Right now, there's 7 of them total. 6 are available physical with 7, I guess. Do you know when 7's going to be available physical?
I am still writing the chapters, and then when that's done, I'll make it print. So
I thought you were done.
No, there's still many more episodes and films to discuss. So it's a lot of work. Yeah.
Well, in the meantime, get the ones that are out.
Yeah.
What you said about Toriyama being a contrarian, I find that very interesting because Goku as a character is like very mischievous, and it kind of feels like Toriyama projects that part of his personality onto him sometimes, and it kind of feels like maybe I don't know if this is like true or not, but it kind of feels like Toriyama writing a character like Arale or Goku is a side effect of maybe his editors and himself noticing that that mischievous nature that he has, that contrarian nature that he has, makes for good character writing. Like I think that when he taps into that part of himself, when he taps into that mischievous, like lighthearted, jokey part of who he is, I think that that's part of the reason he was so good at writing protagonists like Arale and Goku.
I agree. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no, and I wanted to real quick highlight something because I was talking about the pro wrestling thing, but it's also from martial arts films. So I want people to focus on this line here from Jackie Chun. First of all, the fact that it's his master in disguise is classic Jackie Chan style shit. And then, and of course, his name's Jackie Chun. I mean, Toriyama loves Jackie Chan. Derek has an entire article on his site on Tao of Dragon Ball about Toriyama and Jackie Chan. And he says here, it looks like I'll really have to get serious for the first time in a while. That right there, that line, oh, I'm going to have to get serious, is repeated over and over and over and over and over again in Dragon Ball, but different characters. What Toriyama is trying to do here is he's trying to soften the blow of Goku losing by saying, okay, no matter who wins this fight, this is a challenge for Jackie Chun. His number one student is giving him a run for his money. His number one student is making him sweat. That in Japan is referred to as fighting spirit. Literally, it's called fighting spirit. And I use it. I use pro wrestling as an example, but there's other examples too, which is you don't have to win. You don't have to win a fight, but if you fight your ass off and do the best you can, you will still get rewarded. Which is why I even get emotional thinking about it. The scene in the anime, it's not in the manga, of Goku and Tenshinhan being lifted up and they're all celebrating. Dude, that scene hits me right here, bro, because the people were like, we just saw a spectacle. These two guys damn near killed each other. And that's the best Dragon Ball, bro, when it's like a war of attrition. And this whole thing is about fighting spirit is martial arts spirit. It's not about killing innocent people, which is why this is why Goku does not kill and why he even let Frieza live, because he looks at Frieza and in his mind, it's like, you have so much potential to be a great martial artist, but you're a fucking asshole. If you weren't such an asshole and a horrible person, it's this, and this is how Goku sees everybody. Which goes, hold on. Toriyama took that idea, right? Let's put it in the back of our head. Let's fast forward to the Majin Buu saga. Before he kills Majin Buu, he's like, you have so much potential. I'm going to see if I can do something with that. And that's when he asked King Yemma to reincarnate him as Oob. It's literally the same thing, except Toriyama went a step further to talk to the god of the other world to reincarnate him because he wants new challengers. This kid Buu has so much potential. That's why when people say that Dragon Ball has no story, or recently on Twitter, Jordan can vouch for this, there's been a lot of debates on Twitter that in the last couple of weeks that have given me headaches. Media literacy, bro, is thank you, TikTok. Like, dude, if you actually think that Dragon Ball has no story, I'm going to say this. Please don't get offended. I think you're fucking stupid. All right. I genuinely, I'm sorry. If you have seen even the dub, even the English dub, which we've criticized, if you have seen this show or read this manga and your conclusion is that it has no story, I think that you may have a low IQ. No offense. Maybe your parents were related. I don't know. Because I don't understand how somebody can say that. And you don't even have to go as deep as me, Jordan, and Derek. You don't have to go that deep. You don't even have to look into the Chinese. And you don't have to do that. It's still a fucking story. And you're going to sit there and tell me it's no story? Like, I pity you. Anyways, y'all, I'm sorry. I got some super chats, but go ahead.
I just wanted to talk about how Goku actually like psychologically manipulates people without trying to. He doesn't have like the malicious intentions of doing so.
Do you have an example so I can get it pulled up?
Yeah, I mean any character, Tien Shinhan, Piccolo, Vegeta, all of those characters start off very, very egotistical, and there's a reason for that, and that is because that ego can be used as a motivator to surpass Goku. But what's really ironic about that is in order to surpass Goku, they have to practice martial arts. And martial arts is the practice of taming the ego. So what happens here is he finds characters with these massive egos, and then he tricks them into becoming martial artists. And as a side effect of their motivation to surpass Goku, they're forced to tame their ego as martial artists, which makes them into better people. And it's not even necessarily that Goku wants to make them into better people per se. It's very similar to what happened to Goku. Martial arts, in order for you to compete and be a better martial artist, you have to practice the ethics and things that are taught within martial arts. And that includes like refraining from killing people, refraining from indulging in your ego too much, and things of that nature. So when Goku encourages these very egotistical characters to practice martial arts, he's actually accidentally putting them on the path to become better people, although that's not necessarily his intentions. He's kind of like, I mean, don't get me wrong, he wants them to be better people, but he also wants them to just practice martial arts. That's his actual intentions with them, is to be like, hey, you have all this fighting potential. If you practice martial arts, you would be much better off. That's actually what he's trying to communicate in most cases. But what's ironic about that is by doing that, and we've seen evidence of this with Vegeta and even like Frieza in Dragon Ball Super recently, by practicing martial arts, you're less likely to do evil, egotistical things, even if you are an evil, egotistical person. And that's what makes the whole thing very fascinating and interesting, is that Goku is sort of psychologically manipulating people into going through a very similar effect that he went through under Grandpa Gohan. Goku's nature as a Saiyan is only constantly being tempered down by the fact that he is practicing martial arts. Goku kind of has a very, very similar nature within him to the villains that he's fighting. And the only reason that he never becomes anything like them is because he's a martial artist, and he's constantly tempering down that part of his nature. And he's essentially like projecting and teaching other characters to not only practice this, but benefit from it. And that to me is, part of what makes Goku so fascinating. Is and what's very interesting about that is it's a reflection of something that you see outside of Dragon Ball. One of the most egotistical martial artists to ever exist was Bruce Lee, but you couldn't
People
really
misunderstand egotistical, bro.
Yeah, but you couldn't really you didn't really see that part of him very much, because he was very good at, he was very intelligent. He did take the time to learn the philosophy, but and the Buddhist and Taoist influence that went into martial arts. He did take the time to actually learn that. There's plenty of pictures of Bruce Lee reading books in the library. He wrote entire books, the Tao of Kung Fu. He wrote entire books about martial arts philosophy and how Taoism and Buddhism impacted martial arts as a concept. And he himself, beneath the surface, was a very, very egotistical person. And because of that, and because of the combination of that and him learning the philosophy that he learned in order to improve as a martial artist, he's one of the greatest martial artists to ever live, So
a small correction, Jordan, for anyone curious, it's the Tao of Jeet Kune Do was Bruce Lee's book.
There's another one called the Tao of Kung Fu too. That's the one that I have on my
Jeet Kune Do. Oh, okay. Well, the Jeet Kune Do one's the more famous one that people might want to get at the library or bookstore, and it goes into his philosophy as well.
And that's the one where he talks about and it's a famous interview where he's like, be like water, the teacup, water into a teacup, it becomes a teacup. It's all about what's the word, sort of transforming with every situation, because Bruce Lee's whole thing was martial arts styles, quote unquote, is like a passe thing. It's really about taking everything that you've learned and putting it together. But that's also a life philosophy as well. That's a life philosophy. I want to take some super chats here that people have sent in. But before I do, Derek, is there anything you want to add to what Jordan said about and we're going to get into Wukong here in a minute, but is there anything you want to add to what Jordan said about Goku's I guess, and it's something I talked about earlier, Goku's influence on other characters and changing them. Now, that doesn't mean they all become good guys. I've talked about this recently. Frieza, there's that famous line in the manga where Frieza's like, this fight is getting interesting. Even I'm getting excited. That's the Goku effect. Doesn't mean Frieza's going to be a good guy and go trading Christmas gifts with Bulma. No, but it's still Goku changing him. And what does Frieza do? Years later, we got Golden Frieza. We got True Golden Frieza. He learns the value of training because of Goku. The problem is that Goku may have just made his worst enemy, because if it wasn't for Goku, there would not be a Black Frieza. And now they're in trouble. But of course, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm rambling. Do you have anything to add about Goku's influence on other characters throughout the entirety of the series, even in the Super?
Yes, you could write entire books about how he influences others.
I'm sure you will.
Yes. I think the biggest thing for me is a phrase I like, which is I wrote in my books, which is that Goku does not fight to conquer others, he fights to conquer himself.
Yep.
That's the heart of Goku's worldview. And he fights against strong opponents in order to challenge himself so that he can rise to the next level of understanding of his own mind and body and have complete, mastery of those things, which, as Jordan was talking about, is at the heart of real martial arts philosophy. Of course, there's two sides to martial arts. One is the external and just fighting and winning, like with Krav Maga. But Eastern traditional martial arts focus on spirituality, and it's called cultivation, because they're interwoven with Buddhism and Taoism, which started in the 16th century and really got big in the 17th century. Prior to that, it was martial arts were for the sake of winning huge battles on big open fields. But these things evolved over time with cities and other things like that, and it became more of a introspective practice. And also with the rise of Buddhism, Taoism in China, and of course they exported all this stuff over to Japan as well. The Buddhist and Taoist culture, which Taoism transformed into Shinto, which is what all Japanese people grow up in, is the Shinto and Buddhist sort of synergy. They think of it as like it's all one big thing, which is why Dragon Ball has all these religious aspects fused together, which is why you can have Enmadayo, King Yama in the underworld. He's in charge of the dead, but then you have a Shinto kami who oversees the world, and then you have the other world, which is the Shinto realm of where spirits go after they die, or after people die, they go into the other world. And it's not necessarily the same thing as heaven or hell like we have in the Judeo-Christian duality. There's this interwoven aspect where people, or where kami, these spirits, can interact with this world from the other world, which is why kami can inhabit mountains and sacred trees and rivers and other things like that. Yeah, and people, like we see that happens in the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai when Kami spirit possesses that man to enter the tournament in order to challenge Goku and actually, well, to defeat Piccolo's reincarnation, because it was his responsibility for creating Piccolo in the first place, because he had to purify his soul. Thank you. That's perfect. He had to purify his soul in order to become Kami. He purged himself of Piccolo, and he never dealt with it. And he had to then spirit possess this man. And in Shinto and other religious practices, people enter trances, or they have to be pure-hearted in order to be possessed by a spirit. Like in Taiwan and in Hong Kong, there are temples that pray to Sun Wukong, and they have Sun Wukong statues all over the place, and they enter into these ritualistic dances along with music to enter a trance, where they then get possessed by the spirit of Sun Wukong, and they start jumping around like a monkey, making monkey noises, and doing all of these things, including cutting themselves and like stabbing themselves with skewers and bleeding onto these sacred talismans. They're usually yellow, and they write their blood on them, and these become like sacred emblems that can be put on things to protect you from demons or whatever goal you're trying to achieve. So that kind of culture is something that is also exported to Japan, and this idea of spirit possession. So that's what Kami's doing here in this particular scene. I go into all of that in Dragon Ball Culture Volume 6. There's a lot more to it, but this is I think why everything is, it has so many layers to Dragon Ball, and there's it really comes down to the process of Goku trying to conquer himself at every level that he's at, and that's why things keep rising higher. They start with him as a monkey boy in the mountains, and then they ascend, from the earthly realm into this heavenly realm as he climbs up a literal tower to get to heaven, and then it goes into the other world and the afterlife, and then we get into space aliens and all sorts of other stuff in multiple dimensions, and Goku becomes a literal god, in the series because he keeps ascending, and all of that is the Budo Taoist spiritual hierarchy that has been in China and East Asia for hundreds and thousands of years.
Yeah, all of the gods in Journey to the West are a side effect of spiritual cultivation, like the Taoist gods. Essentially, Goku is almost like a mini Taoist god in some sense, who is going through some sort of like spiritual cultivation and building his ki, and as a side effect of that, becoming a god exactly the way that the Taoist gods do in Journey to the West and in Chinese mythology. It's just there's different methods to do that other than martial arts outside of within Chinese mythology. There's like internal alchemy. They even eat like pills of immortality in Journey to the West to have these abilities,
right,
and be
which are similar to the senzu that we have in Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
By the way,
Danny, did you see my private chat?
Yeah, I'm actually literally about to go into that. I just want to give, because we got new people coming in. If you want the PhD course, I sound like I'm an infomercial right now. If you want the 6 books, the Encyclopedia Britannica, remember that? If you want the PhD course on Dragon Ball, check out the DaoofDragonBall.com and pick up the Dragon Ball Culture series. This is volume 2. And it goes into everything that we've talked about, except in even more detail, panel by panel. This is about as high as it gets when it comes to, like, what's the word? I guess achieving grand Dragon Ball knowledge. Enlightenment, yeah, because we can't, like I said, if we were to, even if Derek were to take all this and turn it into a video, it's like a 80-hour video because there's so much in this manga, right? And like I said before, even if your level of fandom is, I just want to watch Dragon Ball because it's funny and has cool fights. If that's all your fandom is, you still can't say it has no story. But if you're one of those people that's thirsting for knowledge, this is it. Now, Derek has a sweepstakes going on, or a giveaway. Do you want to get into that, or do you want to talk about Journey to the West first? Because I do want to briefly touch on.
I think we should play the giveaway first for sure.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah, so I am doing a giveaway for this figure that's been sitting here this whole time. This is Goku holding the umbrella with the bird on his tail from the illustration by Akira Toriyama. And I'm going to give this away to your viewers because you guys are awesome Dragon Ball fans.
Damn.
And Danny is going to put the link to my giveaway in the chat. But you can also find it on all of my social media at Derek Padula. And this figure was I
put it on the screen. This is the giveaway.
Yes, thank you. This was a Best Buy exclusive, and I got one before they sold out, and I've been holding on to it and waiting for a special time to give it away. So you guys can enter. All you got to do is enter your email, and you can confirm it when you get it. And then you can do other things to increase your chances of winning. That include following me on social media at Derek Padula, Twitter, everywhere, all that stuff. And then also, I'll be giving away a copy of one of my books of your choice. So you can read it in English, Spanish, French, Italian, for any of the books that I have available in print or in ebook, depending on your choice. But I do want to point out that I'm not going to ship these internationally because the price is outrageous. So
hell yeah.
If you're in the United States, I will ship them to you. And if you win the book, I'll sign it for you to your name with whatever message you want or to a friend. But if you're outside of the United States, then I will ship it to you through Amazon and I can't sign it for you. And I'm afraid that the figure cannot go internationally either. So I'll find something else special to give you. But thank you in advance to everybody who enters. And this is because you guys are Dragon Ball fans and because you're awesome.
I went ahead and pinned the link. So if you're in the chat, you should be able to see the link there. It's pinned. It's the Perkzilla link. So I put it in there. Yeah. Also, earlier, I asked, have you read the Dragon Ball manga? 65% of people voted yes. 35% voted no. I think we should change that. We're going to get to a little bit of that here in just a minute, but because everybody should read the manga at least once. But I do want to get to these super chats. They've been waiting for a while, and I want to give the people, I mean, they're very generous. Thank you, Son Goshuaku. He says, as someone who grew up with a stepdad that would point out the deep life messages in Dragon Ball to me, I'm glad you three are in the Dragon Ball community to break down the franchise on a deeper level. Much love. Thank you, Son Goshuaku. Enter Derek's contest. It's linked. You can get that figure. Right?
Yeah, that's cool. I'm familiar with you, and I appreciate your support.
Cool. All right, and then Kiryu says, Son Goku, the strongest under the heavens. Yeah, literally, when he won the tournament. 227060. Derek, could there audiobooks? I think he's asking if there are audiobook versions of your books.
Not yet, but I'm working on that this year because audiobook sales have exploded in popularity, and I want to do that. And I've been in talks with the original cast of the Ocean dub of Dragon Ball Z, who coined the phrase "It's over 9,000," to do an audiobook version of "It's over 9,000."
That's
where
awesome.
They will do the voices for Goku and Vegeta, you know, like Brian Drummond saying "It's over 9,000."
Or Ian.
Yeah, that's right. So, but to do that, I will need to do a crowdfunding campaign because those guys are professionals. But for everything else, I can narrate it myself. Now, until those come out, you can use your app to do the voice reading for you. Like Google Play, you can just press a button, and same thing on the Kindle, and it will read it out loud for you. So if you prefer to listen, those options are available and they're free. And then I will keep working on the audiobooks.
But you'll be narrating the audiobook whenever the time comes.
That's right.
Cool. All right. And then another question is, who is Goku's most influential mentor? That's a good one. Because for me, Son Gohan would be like the natural pick. But to be real with you, I kind of think it's Roshi. I don't know, man. Roshi.
I think it's a tough question because Grandpa Gohan is responsible for Goku's nature and a lot of his, you know, his main core teachings come from Grandpa Gohan. But when it comes to physically wrestling with what Goku would have to deal with in the future afterwards, Roshi was also instrumental in that as well. So I personally, I think that Grandpa Gohan is much more important because without Grandpa Gohan, Goku never would have been willing to listen to Roshi. So to me, I think that makes Grandpa Gohan more important. But that's not to undermine the importance of Roshi as a mentor. That's just, you know, without Grandpa Gohan, there is no. But then you could also make the argument that without Roshi, there is no Grandpa Gohan because Roshi is the person who taught Grandpa Gohan. So there's this like crazy circle there that makes it really tough. You know
Each
what I mean?
one was the higher tier. I mean, Kami taught Goku how to fly and how to sense ki and how he doesn't need his eyes. A lot of that stuff there was extra filler in the anime where Popo taught Goku that, and I loved those episodes. I used to hate them, but as I grew older, I love them because they're such like, if you've ever seen a Japanese Hong Kong movie, that's literally what it is. The main character's blindfolded and they have to learn how to fight without vision, and it's such classic kung fu stuff. But I do want to address something that I was going to say earlier about this particular fight and Roshi and all that. This fight, the 21st tournament, was the beginning of the lesson that Dragon Ball teaches again and again and again and again and again, which is, and Roshi teaches this to Goku, No matter how strong you are, there's always someone out there who might be a little bit better. Goku experiences this with Tenshinhan. He experiences it with Vegeta. People, this is why I despise the dub. Goku, and boy, there's controversy about this going on social media right now, the whole Mother's Basement thing. I have no issue with Mother's Basement, bro, but I'm just going to say stick to regular anime because when it comes to Dragon Ball, brother, I don't think, no offense, but look, the dub making it so that Goku sensed the good in Vegeta is wrong and bullshit. The reason, and we talked about it on Mangalorian, the reason as to why Goku spared Vegeta on Earth after their first fight is because Goku selfishly wanted to fight him again so he could train up and become better. Vegeta was his measuring stick. So he asked Krillin, don't kill him. That right there is, and Goku even says it. He's like, I know this is selfish and dangerous, but I really want to fight him again. That's the reason why Vegeta didn't die. But, and this is something Jordan's pointed out a gazillion times, Goku's dumb decisions because of his karma end up leading to better results. Because if Vegeta did die, he wouldn't have been able to help Gohan and Krillin against Frieza's forces like the Doria, Zarbon, the Ginyu Force when they work together. So there's that. Also, the rest of Vegeta's arc wouldn't have happened. But what I find most funny, and this is Toriyama being awesome, and that's why I want to get to Journey to the West here, is that Goku saw Vegeta as his measuring stick, but what really happened was the reverse. Vegeta sees Goku as his measuring stick. How did this low-class warrior get so fucking strong that I ended up getting battered by him? It's a beautiful story. And again, I'm not trying to turn this into shit on the dub, but the changes they made are really frustrating. Now, we're going to get to Journey to the West. This is let me get these last few out. Okay. I'm not going to go into Journey to the West that much, but there are some things I want to talk about. All right. Milch Product says, you guys are awesome. Growing up in the German speaking part of the world, I was fortunate to watch DB. Kuririn's first death left an imprint in my soul. Yeah. And the fact that he's laying there and Goku's like shaking him and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, yeah. Okay, best English manga translation, color or black and white for your first time. I don't think the color matters all that much, even though black and white is the original intention. As far as the best English translation goes, Seed of Might right now is working on a new Dragon Ball manga translation. That's probably going to be the one to go with. Do y'all agree with that?
They do great work. In regards to the official translations, I think it's the same translation used in the black and white and the color version from Viz. Yeah. You can find it, in America or the UK or Canada.
But Viz got some things wrong too.
Yeah, and well, yes, and also there was some colloquialisms and things that they did with Piccolo and all that people still debate to this day.
Yeah.
So yeah, it comes down to subjective opinion. But if you do want to go with the Seed of Might ones, I'm sure they'll be great.
Yeah, and even if you get the Viz ones, there's some censorship and there's obviously some line changes, but I don't think it's as bad as what the English dub did.
Right.
Does Goku care for his family as merely his friends? That's a weird question. Goku cares.
I think he's referencing that Toriyama interview where Toriyama said that he views his family more as companions. And I think a lot of people misunderstand what Toriyama... This actually, ironically, kind of goes into the Journey to the West thing. Because Sun Wukong had a very, very similar perception of people around him. He kind of just looked at them as his companions, other than his master. But like, it's more so that when Toriyama is saying that, he's not necessarily saying that Goku doesn't care about his family. He's more so trying to paint the picture that Goku is not biased, meaning that Goku is just as likely to have empathy for anybody else that he also considers his companions as he does his family. Now, that doesn't mean that he doesn't care about his family more or look at his family as his family, because obviously he does. He loves Gohan. He loves Chi-Chi. He goes out of his way for them multiple times. But Goku's overall perception of the people around him is very, very simple, in the sense that he doesn't, there's no like bias in the sense that, like, for example, Vegeta. Like, Vegeta is a very, very good contrast to Goku in this way, because Vegeta has a lot of pride in himself and his family. And that can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing if it's taken too far. And Goku essentially just doesn't have that. Not that he doesn't have pride in his family. It's just not pride in the same sense that Vegeta has pride in his family. Because Vegeta projects his own pride and his own value onto his family. If his family doesn't meet his expectations, then it bothers him. You see this multiple times throughout the series. Whenever Trunks doesn't quite measure up to Vegeta's expectations, it bothers him. It bruises his pride. Whereas Goku just doesn't have that. Goku doesn't have this sense of like selfish personal pride when it comes to his family. He just cares about them in the same sense, that he would everybody else. He has a degree of like universal empathy for everybody, and that's more so what Toriyama is trying to say about Goku looking at everybody as a companion, is that he's just not biased when it comes to his compassion or his empathy towards anyone. So,
Derek, do you agree with that?
There's a comment, yes, to be made there of, with Buddhism and Taoism, because Buddhism is about offering universal salvation to everyone, all sentient beings, including those who might in the future reincarnate as humans and can cultivate themselves to attain Buddhahood. And that, Goku, of course, represents that aspect of Buddhism. And people say he has a bodhisattva nature, which is the idea of offering mercy to others, or just looking at everybody the same way. And as Jordan said, not being biased against them. Whereas Taoism does not do that. Taoism focuses on offering salvation to one disciple. And they might teach dozens, but they only select one disciple to receive the true teachings, who then becomes the master and passes that on to one disciple. And so we see that, in Dragon Ball as well. Like Kame Sennin represents both Taoist and some Buddhist aspects, and he teaches, one or two disciples at a time. And then, of course, he has the cloud and all these other things, which are Taoist and Buddhist symbols, all that stuff. There's a lot going on there. But Vegeta has pride in his son, and he wants him to be like him. He wants him to excel at what he teaches him through the martial arts. Whereas Goku does teach Gohan the martial arts, but at the same time, Chi-Chi teaches him how to succeed as a human being and gain real world knowledge. And he eventually becomes a professor, and he follows his own passion and uses his mind to do what he enjoys doing. And of course, through that, he's able to get a wife and start his own family and be successful. So that's the psychological play at work, between this philosophical aspect of the Buddho-Taoist origins of Goku, and then also his earthly, the way he was raised by Son Gohan, but then also his Saiyan heritage, that wants to battle and conquer himself, and all this stuff. And then, of course, the Vegeta and Bulma and Trunks dynamic is different. It's similar, but coming at it from like a different angle, right? With the goal being to help someone else rise up to higher levels through a different way, but achieving a similar goal.
Yeah, and it's yes, I can't. I have nothing to add to that because there's nothing else that can be said, because you pretty much put a cork in it, which is a good thing. And then so he says, what IRL philosophy, I guess, does Goku personally align with? Go ahead.
I would say, and this is my take on it. the purpose of Journey to the West is to essentially create a philosophy that's very similar to what they taught Shaolin monks who were going to be forced to use violence. And I think Goku is sort of, as a character, he represents this blend of Buddhist, Taoist teachings and philosophies that are reflected in Journey to the West and in what Sun Wukong is taught as a character in Journey to the West. The fact that you're going to have to use violence and and protect other people is something that I'm sure a lot of Buddhists and even Taoists had to wrestle with a lot, because it is the use of violence. And so the overall end philosophy that they came up with in terms of like how to correctly use violence while also maintaining your purity as a Buddhist or as a Taoist, that's sort of the ideology that Goku reflects, is martial arts philosophy in terms of morals and the approach to how to handle the type of situations that Goku handles in Dragon Ball. The type of situations that Goku handles are catered to the type of moral philosophy that Goku is sort of a representation of. All the trials and stuff that he deals with are a reflection of the philosophy that he himself is a representation of. That kind of goes back to what Danny was saying earlier about Goku making chaotic decisions, but in the end he ends up getting the best possible scenario. That is a side effect of the fact that Goku does stay true to his philosophy and to his teachings and to his morals, and is rewarded for it, because what his philosophy and his morals represent is the idea of allowing the universe to play out based on how you essentially, it's very similar to what they teach in Taoism in terms of how you teach one, or how you treat one person is a reflection of how you would treat everyone. Goku, by treating people the way he does, that's the reason that, like, every single arc you've got this group of people, this new group of friends and people to add to the spirit bomb almost every single arc, is because that's essentially the plot and the story's way of showing us the benefits of Goku's attitude. Goku may have to deal with like chaotic situations. The Earth might get destroyed. Villains might show up for revenge and stuff like that. But because of Goku's philosophy and his approach to things, he always ends up not only like growing his cast of friends and like the people who are there to help him in those situations, he also ends up creating an overall better world, an overall better universe after each cycle of chaos. And that is essentially a side effect of the fact that Goku's moral philosophy reflects the idea that those types of trials and things are that's suffering. That's essentially suffering. The things that Goku deals with are things that everyone is going to have to deal with. But because he stays true to his mentality and to his philosophy, he still ends up, despite dealing with that chaos, creating the best possible scenario for him and his friends. And I think that is a huge reflection of the type of philosophy that he represents, personally.
Yeah, I got two things to add to that.
Go for it.
The first is that Goku fights with a staff, which is the monk's weapon, and that's what Sun Wukong carries. And he represents that Buddhist aspect of the Shaolin, like you mentioned. And throughout the Ming and the Qing dynasties, as martial arts were ascending in popularity and becoming more interwoven with spirituality, stories like Journey to the West inspired martial artists to believe that they could become immortal and invincible, and they were impervious to blades or spears or any type of blunt object, and eventually they felt that they were uh, impervious to guns. And this ended up culminating in what was called the Boxer Rebellion, where a lot of martial artists, what they call boxers, uh, rebelled against the government and felt like they were super warriors, similar to the ones in Dragon Ball. And they felt like, okay, if our hearts are pure and we align ourselves with the Buddha or the Tao, then nothing can harm us. And I love that idea. Unfortunately, the bullets won.
Yeah.
And they ended up losing the rebellion
as usual,
and getting killed. So, but that type of idealism is at the heart of Dragon Ball because it also inspired the kung fu films that Toriyama grew up watching and fell in love with. So these invincible super warriors, like there's one called the Invincible Super Chan, which is a great film where this guy is immune to everything except for he has one weak spot on his body that unless you strike that one spot, he cannot be harmed. It's a great film. A lot of those like quirky Hong Kong films were like that, and that's the type that Toriyama loved the most, the ones that were funny.
I mean, I don't know how many times
inspired.
I've told people to go back and watch Shaw Brothers and Jackie Chan because you'll
yeah.
see Dragon Ball all over it, everywhere.
Yeah, well, and in fact, I mentioned in my Dragon Ball Culture Volume 2 that Goku's first outfit is the exact same outfit that Jackie Chan wears in some of his best films. That blue outfit with the simple, rope, a cloth belt, and the simple kung fu shoes. Toriyama just takes that outfit and puts it right in there. And actually, yeah, that when I combined it with Sun Wukong's outfit, with the tiger skin loincloth and the magic cloud and his staff. And also, Danny, you brought that image up earlier of Goku riding on the bike with Bulma.
Yeah.
And I happen to have that action figure as well, of the two of them riding on the bike. And Goku's wearing that outfit that I just described, which is why I mentioned it. I'm not giving this one away yet. I'm giving away the umbrella one. But if you keep following me, I will have future giveaways and I will give away this. I also have a pile of figures right next to me that I will give away in the future as well. So lots more in store.
The comment is pinned for y'all so you can be part of the giveaway. Brother 227, you got the most dense response to your question. You better give me more than $2 for that, bro. You better throw in a little more for that, man, because you got a hell of a response.
You just reminded me. Thank you by bringing that question up. The second thing I wanted to say, the first one was about his staff.
Okay.
So you got another 15 minutes? No, I'm just kidding.
No.
Let's go. The second thing, it was that Jordan mentioned that Goku continues ascending and he interacts with all of these gods. And in relation to that question of what philosophy does Goku align with, he doesn't have a stated philosophy in the series itself. He never says, I am Buddhist, or I am Taoist, or I am agnostic, or I am atheist, or anything else like that. He doesn't say I'm a Stoic, or any Western philosophies. Those words never come out of Goku's mouth. But there are things he does that are Buddhist, like when he prays for Major Metallotron to, have a favorable rebirth, things like that. And when he comes down,
you mean Android 8?
No. He does that with Major Metallotron.
Oh, does he? Okay.
Yeah. After he knocks his head off while he's climbing up.
That's right.
Tower.
That's right. I completely forgot about
that. Yeah, it's supposed to be funny because he's a robot and he's not an actual living being. It's actually like a joke on Toriyama's part.
He still feels guilty for it.
Yeah.
He's not
and
going
Goku
to read
even says the Buddhist prayer wrong, which makes it even funnier.
Right. But what's so fascinating to me about Goku's perspective is that he ends up interacting with gods. He, like everybody else who I claim to believe in God, I'm a God worshiper, yes, thank you very much. And they claim to be spiritual, but are they really? Are they acting in a spiritual manner? Are they doing things that will raise them up spiritually? Goku does. And as a result, he does rise up and he meets God. He's face to face with God. He's having conversations with them. And in pure Journey to the West fashion, these deities are like real people. They have flaws. They're not perfect. They are like Journey to the West. A lot of it was a commentary on corrupt bureaucrats during that era of China when it was written. And just politics and religious leaders who were hypocrites and things like that. So Goku meets these people, and they're deities, but they're like regular people. And because he doesn't have that bias, like Jordan mentioned, he's not revering them. He's not getting down on his knees and worshiping them every day. He's being himself all the time. He's being true to who he is and interacting with them in a way as if they were regular people. And that continues all the way up to in Dragon Ball Super when he meets Zeno-sama, and he's like the lord of all things, and he can destroy entire universes by squishing his fingers together. But he's not in reverence to him, even though others around him are like, Goku, you need to bow, you need to stop saying stupid things. But that's who Goku is.
He's not afraid.
He's not afraid
and Zeno
of that.
sees that in him, for the record. He sees that he has a pure heart, and that's the reason that he likes him.
Exactly. And he ends up becoming friends with him. And Zeno didn't have any friends prior to Goku, right? And Goku does, amazing things. He brings the second Zeno over, so he has a friend all the time. Like, that's such a cool thing to do. And that's part of Goku's personality from the beginning all the way up to where we are now. I have a degree in East Asian studies, and I studied abroad in Beijing to learn Chinese. And then in my final year, I studied Japanese. I went to Western Michigan University in Michigan, but there's still so much more for me to learn. And I would love to I'd love to go to Japan and get a master's in manga, and then get a PhD in anime, because they have some schools there that can specialize in those things. And there are a few in the United States as well, but it's actually more affordable to go to Japan and to get a degree there than it is in the United States. Plus, Japan is the birthplace of Dragon Ball, and I would be able to interact with people who made the series. So I think that's I'm more inclined to do that. But I need to improve my Japanese to a better level, because they teach the classes in Japanese, and they won't accept me unless I'm near fluent. So I have some work to do.
Yes, I have work to do as well. You're muted, Danny.
You're right. I'm sorry. What I was I said yes. I said yes. They have weird rules over there. Clip says Geekdom has found people that rival his knowledge. Look, I'm just going to say this. There's no way you can listen to this podcast or this stream or whatever you want to call it and say that Dragon Ball's not deep. I mean, if you actually say that, dude, like, you're stupid. I think you're an idiot. I don't think you're paying attention, because there's always somebody who will say it's not that deep. And usually, I'm just going to keep it real. Usually the person that says it's not that deep, not always, but usually, is somebody who always forgets that this series was written by a man who grew up in a different culture than we did. And that's why you can compare Dragon Ball to American comics. People have done that, but and you can contrast them too. But like, the point is, this idea that it's not that deep is just ridiculous when there's so much.
Well, he also went out of his way to study Chinese culture as well, and Indian culture, and he went out of his way to study for Dragon Ball. Like he didn't, like a lot of people, because Toriyama he was an improvisational storyteller. They assume that there's no basis for his storytelling, but that's actually the entire reason that he studied those things, is because he was going to be doing all this by the seat of his pants, and he needed some sort of concrete foundation to build his story on. A lot of people confuse being an improvisational storyteller or a discovery writer for having no concrete basis for your story, and that's just not how that works. You have to have some sort of foundation for your storytelling if you're going to attempt to be a discovery writer. You can't just, you have to have something to pull from, and that's what made Toriyama's job not necessarily easy, but easier in the sense that he did have this giant well of things that he could pull from to make his story more interesting. And that was the entire reason that he studied and did everything that he did prior to Dragon Ball to prepare for it. So,
yeah, Danny asked the question from the chat, why is Dragon Ball so successful around the world? And I argue in my Dragon Ball culture books that it's because of the culture. Because there are a lot of other shonen manga or just pure action series that focus on fighting and other things, and they're not as successful. And there's some comedy series that are not as successful, and some sci-fi series and so on. So why is Dragon Ball so successful? It's because of the culture that fuses all of these elements together. And the reason why that's even possible is because of Toriyama's gift as a storyteller and his ability to draw from dozens of different sources of inspiration and fuse them together. Just like when Goku and Vegeta fused together with, I should be doing this, they fuse together and become an even more powerful being. And that's what Toriyama did with his manga. And he pulls from ancient culture, modern culture, Eastern culture, Western culture, and all these different languages,
Everything.
and designs, character designs, clothing, architecture, all these different things that most people are not able to do because their knowledge base is so narrow, and or they're not as visually oriented as Toriyama is, like, because he soaks things up like a sponge. He sees something in a comedy TV show, and then he puts it into the Tenkaichi Budokai, like when Jackie Chun and Goku are singing and dancing and having fun, or when Goku and Krillin are introducing themselves and they're doing what's called a manzai routine, where Krillin plays the straight man and Goku plays the fool. That's from Toriyama watching Japanese comedy shows late at night. That because Toriyama loved funny stuff, and he put that into the show. Like, just the very idea that it's not a pure action series, that it's not a pure sci-fi series or a pure adventure or whatever else. It's all of these things mixed together, and it becomes its own culture. It becomes a Dragon Ball culture, and so it goes back 5,000 years. I mean, you could say Dragon Ball is superficial because when you're looking at it, you see explosions and people screaming and stuff like that. But you go even just a little bit deeper than that at the tip, and you realize it's this huge pyramid that keeps going down and down and down, and it's filled with culture at every level.
Yeah, it's like what we said earlier, man. Like if people, again, I know I'm not trying to sound like a dick either, but it's like if you really, even on a fundamentally surface level, even on a surface level analysis of Dragon Ball, even if you're just talking about Z, you can't say that it has no story. When I see that, all I think is you've never read it, you've never seen it, you probably looked up clips on YouTube of the fights or played the video games and was just like, okay, no, and this is not something that can be argued. Like, I've had people say that they want to debate me on this, and I'm saying, dude, I'll humiliate you. Like, no offense, but I'll literally leave you crying on the stream because there's so much evidence to the contrary that it's like not even worth it. Okay, Jay Fire says women love Vegeta because he introed as an adult and Goku kid. No, because he's a bad boy who becomes an anti-hero. Wisco Dippers. It's a shame that all my friends are still stuck on that old dated Dragon Ball Z English dub with that over-the-top Fox on their soundtrack. They're really missing out on a good show. Tell them to read the manga. If they don't want to, then they're probably just casuals. At least read the manga. At least. Hip 10, how do you feel about the English Kai dub? I've said it before. The English Kai dub is some of the best work Funimation did. Still not 100% accurate, but so much better than the Z dub. What were you going to say, Derek? You have to add to that.
The voice actors agree with you. Sean Schemmel has said many times that he was so glad and grateful that he had an opportunity to redub that show with a better script. It was more accurate to the original Japanese. So, I mean, if the voice actors are saying it, and they put their heart and soul into that series when it first came out, and they look back on it and say, man, this other one's better, take them at their word.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think people, it's just funny how people suck Sean Schemmel's cock about it, and then I'm over here like, actually, he agrees with me, bro. Like, so I did an interview here on the channel years ago with Sonny Strait, who voices Krillin and Bardock, and he said on that interview that he wishes he could redub the Bardock special because he went back and looked at the dub script versus the Japanese, and I've talked about this on the Twitch streams on Saturday. The Bardock TV special, Bardock, the father of Goku, the dub, is so unbelievably horrible. Like that, I can't even think of more than like 2 lines that they actually kept from the Japanese. They changed everything, man. And it's even he said, I wish I can go back and redo that. So whatever. Okay, so Jabernatzy, this is a little bit off topic, bro. This is not about the history of Dragon Ball, but you're being generous, so I'll take it, bro. Would you rather have a Cooler or Janemba brought back? First, I say Janemba, as they could tie it in with Daima and have Marva create him using 2 evil eyes. I actually like that idea. I like that idea. I like your idea, bro. That would be kind of cool. So what do you have to say, Derek or Jordan, about this?
It's a creative idea. Yeah. At first I thought, well, it's got to be Cooler because there's a lot more of a psychological aspect and there's more that can be done with the character. Whereas Janemba was a one-off. He represented the karma, like the dirty, sinful misdeeds that have been drawn out from the souls of the dead that were, that after they died, they go through this purification process so they can reincarnate. And then these tanks filled up with this evil goop. And then the Oni, he wasn't paying attention because he was a naive teenager, and it exploded out and transformed him into Janemba. That's the whole character. He's a representation of bad stuff that has been built up. So what can you do with that in terms of psychology and how Goku or the other characters would have to battle against that, and what would it represent for them to ascend beyond, right? Like whenever you're making a villain, you have to think about why that antagonist is opposed to the protagonist. So I don't know. You'd have to put some more work into Janemba as more of a like when Toriyama redid Broly, he made him a different character, right? So and he's got more to him, more substance. You'd have to do the same thing with Janemba in order to make him more than just that one note. That's why I think if you could just take Cooler and do more with him, it would be easier because he's related to Frieza and there's all this other stuff going on with Frieza that's still in the series. But either one of them could work if you put enough effort into it.
Yeah, they both need rewrites.
I agree with that. I don't think either of them would be the same character. Is essentially like, how it would. Like it just like you could say Cooler, Janemba, whatever, but whatever they did with them at that point would not be what they had done with them previously. Personally, in terms of the whole Janemba thing, I do think there is some potential there, because one of the things that Daima discussed was the idea that the Kai and everybody were working to create together to develop life in the new realm, and Goku is like a side effect of that. He's like a side effect of like this cycle of creation and destruction that the Kais are in charge of. And Du and Ku and Daima are kind of like the demon realm trying to take shortcuts to create that sort of life. So they could essentially like use the new Janemba character to play on that theme even further. In terms of like, how the Glend and the Evil Kai go about creating life in the demon realm in comparison to the hands-off approach that the Kai and the angels and everybody else has, and why that's important. That is something that they could write a story around, is why the Kai are hands-off in terms of developing life and stuff like that. And they could use this like new Janemba style character to expand on that narrative. I think that would be really cool. There's a lot of different things that you could do with it. I do think that it would kind of be like, I do think it would, in that sense, would be like a further rehash of what Toriyama was trying to do with Boo. I think Janemba was already that. In some sense, I think he was kind of a reference to Boo. I do think he has very similar intentions in terms of storytelling as Boo, and so are Ku and Do. Personally, though, anything that, whichever character they bring back, as long as they use that character as an opportunity to expand on, the overall Dragon universe and the narrative intentions for the story, I would be fine with either of them.
I think they should pay us for these ideas because these are solid.
Yeah.
I've been saying that for a while. They should. Hoop Baby, thank you for the compliment, brother. I appreciate you. Said Danny's to go to DB2. I appreciate you. What is a country song that made you think of Dragon Ball from Junior? I don't really listen to country, but is there one?
I don't either.
I don't listen to country music either, but you could listen to any country music and think about Goku because he is kind of a hit.
Yeah, isn't I'm thinking of the farmer with the truck in DBZ episode 1.
Oh yeah,
the farmer with the shotgun.
Yeah, because like every country song is about your truck and how it gets
and guns and your pet dog or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Or living in the sticks. If there was a country song about living in the sticks, that you could associate that with Goku.
With My Baby Tonight from Jeff Jarrett about Bulma. I don't know. JD, I knew you'd be here. Derek's face being totally covered here. Let me see if I can adjust this. Yeah. Oh God. Okay. Let me just get through it.
Okay.
Let me get through it. Stories, whether they're shonen or otherwise, are made with deeply psychological drives to influence and change human behavior. In the West, Aristotle wrote much about this. DB is the synthesis of different nonfiction units. That's pretty much what Derek was saying, except you're saying it in a more scientific way, right? I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you want me to comment on that?
If you want, if you have something to say, go for it. Go ahead.
If you bring up the question again, I just want to read it again.
Yeah, it's going to cover your face, but all right.
That's okay. Yeah. Okay. So basically, now you can put it back down.
Okay.
So Toriyama was not attempting to write a formulaic, hero 1,000 faces style story by Joseph Campbell. He talked about all the like we see in Star Wars, right? That's a formulaic, like perfect example of like the original Star Wars trilogy, episodes 4 to 6. Toriyama wasn't doing that, but you can make a lot of parallels to that once you have the knowledge that those stories are based on. And I think you bring up different philosophies like Aristotle and Plato and his cave allegory and things like that. A lot of that comes from our knowledge and what we are educated with as Westerners, and we are then looking at this lens, looking at the story through our lens, and you can glean a ton from that. And I know I got to read this.
No, you don't have to. I'm just showing it to the people.
Okay.
No, don't stop. Do your thing.
Okay.
I mean, it's up to you, but yeah.
No, well, there's actually so many comments that it's like it's hard for me. Like I want to respond to every one of these.
I deal with that so much. Yeah,
you guys have great comments.
Yeah, I know it's hard because there are a lot of people, and if Dragon Ball was on the air, hopefully soon, it'd be even more people, bro. Right now we're in a dead period. Later this year, bro, everyone's gonna come back, and yeah.
It's gonna be crazy.
Go ahead.
I do see one comment. Someone asked about my books availability on Amazon. Those clips. I'm not in charge of Amazon stock, but they do come back, and they will come back soon. So if you want the hardcovers right now, I have them in stock, and you can order them through my site, and I will sign them to you or whoever you want and ship them to you. And if not, you might be able to back order them on. What are you doing, Danny?
It's from my stream the other day. I received. I received a very interesting package from somebody overseas that I can't reveal what's in it. And
he's very excited about it.
The other day I started showing a little bit of it and then I put it away, and people were like, "Is that what I think it is? Did they really send you that?" So that's all. I'm just fucking with them. Somebody brought it up earlier. Keep doing your thing. I am not trying to stop you.
Well, I saw a martial arts uniform. It looked like a character design. Maybe
it
Goku.
Looks like. I can't talk about it publicly yet, but go ahead. I'm saying continue your explanation if you have anything else left to say.
Well, I've lost my train of thought, so I'll have to move on.
Oh, it's fine. We'll get the next one. Hold on. Okay, Hoop Baby says, would have you been cool with once hybrid line gets too diluted, get SLs take over and make the hybrid a full Saiyan, converts the human DNA to Saiyan? That's so you're talking about like
that's invincible. Yeah, that's like
I was gonna say that's almost like a
yeah.
That's almost like a weird like evolutionary. It's almost like evolution. That I feel like that story would be like a Dragon Ball story in the deep future. Like hundreds and hundreds of years later, human Saiyan hybrids have evolved into being like that. Because the Saiyan gene is what's the opposite of recessive? Dominant, right? Is it dominant? Yeah. That could be a thing. I like how the other day, and I tore this fucking video apart. That fucking Watch Mojo made a list of like the top 20 fan theories, and one of them was the fact that Pan can't transform Super Saiyan because her genes are diluted. And I was like, what about her fucking grandson, Goku Jr., who's even more diluted? He can do it. I hate Watch Mojo, bro. I hate them. It's like they don't think. It's like, I hate them, bro. People should lose their right to talk about Dragon Ball when you're that dense. Anyways.
Well, the problem is there's an incentive for that to put out that
money. Money.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah.
Kiryu, the Dragon Warrior, listening to y'all and learning more about DB's influence, greatly influenced my own writing. Mr. Toriyama was truly amazing. Thanks. Get the book.
That's nice to hear.
Get the book.
Thank you. Yeah, that's validating to hear. Because that's what teachers strive to do, is to inspire the next generation in whatever art you want to express yourself through. And the same thing happened with Toriyama. He grew up being inspired by artists, including his standard education, but then also his art teachers, and going to a technical design school to become an illustrator and work in the advertising industry. And then he was influenced by his editor to make manga, because he really didn't even want to be a manga author. He just wanted to win that cash prize. But then he learned through trial and error and this gauntlet of suffering of having Torishima, of all people, as the man who discovered him, because he is brutal when it comes to rejecting things he doesn't think are up to snuff.
You've heard his recent comments about Toyotaro, right?
Yeah. It's like, this drawing is trash, basically. I
sent Torishima a text the other day, and I'm like, do you hate everything modern Dragon Ball? And he's like, yes. Sent me an angry face. Oh.
So all right. Yeah, but then also everything else that inspired Toriyama, from in the movies to the architecture to World War II, to Disney films, thank you, to automobiles, because his father was an auto mechanic and owned an auto repair shop. And then his wife influenced him with her ability to design characters and their fashion and make things that looked good and appealing to modern audiences, because Toriyama didn't know about fashion. So that type of stuff, he's just soaked it all up. And for you to say that what we're talking about now is inspiring you means a lot, because that's why artists do what they do. If they can inspire the next generation, or I don't even know how old you are, you might be my age or older. If they can inspire anybody, that's an amazing thing, and it feels good to hear that.
Real quick, Jabernathy says it'd be cool to have a Toriyama cameo in Dragon Ball every now and then. Toribot is in a couple of scenes, but if you want Toriyama cameos, watch Dr. Slump, because he's in like there's a Toriyama in Dr. Slump that talks to the other characters, bro. So that's definitely watch Slump for that. This comment put a smile on my face because it says, I'm also inspired by Toriyama and Jordan inspired myself, like Sun Wukong and Mike Tyson for philosophical fighting. The fact that this guy put Sun Wukong and Mike Tyson in the same sentence, bro, that puts a smile on my face.
Too. That's
I'm sure that makes
sentence, man.
I'm sure that cures your erectile dysfunction, bro, when somebody does that. Shit. Yeah. Okay, but speaking of which, I want to discuss briefly Journey to the West because I want to say this. Dragon Ball is not just a one-in-one copy of Journey to the West. Yes, Sun Wukong inspired Son Goku. They even call him Son Goku in Japan. The monkey aspect, the staff, and the cloud, that's all Sun Wukong. But if you actually read Journey to the West, now Jordan and I have talked about this on the Mangalorian a lot, so we're not going to go too deep into this. Check out the previous streams we did going back to 2023. Sun Wukong is not even the main character. Well, okay, he's not even the main protagonist in Journey to the West. He's more of an antagonist. He's more like Vegeta in some parts of it. And so
in the early story,
right, and that's what I'm saying. What I wanted to talk about is the fact that Toriyama didn't just copy that. He took parts of it, but then later he really added even more parts when he introduced Vegeta, not the second, because Raditz would be the second, but technically the third monkey man in the series. He's the guy that was more like Wukong. So I wanted y'all to talk about like what aspects of Sun Wukong did Toriyama give Goku? Jordan, you want to go first since this is your thing? Or
yeah, I'll go first.
All right.
Essentially, there's two halves of there's two major halves of Sun Wukong's story that are important when it comes to discussing this, and that is who he was prior to being trapped underneath 5 Phases Mountain by Buddha, and who he was afterwards. Now, who he was before. He still learned martial arts. He still had a master. He still had a teacher. He still has a very, very similar story to Goku. But he was a conqueror. He wanted to conquer heaven. You could replace space, the Saiyans conquering space with Sun Wukong conquering heaven, and it would be a very, very similar thing. But Sun Wukong's problem was that he had a massive ego, and he also didn't have a lot of control over his emotions and his instincts effects on his actions. Very, very similar to the Saiyans, he was in a lot of cases subject to the effects of his ego and his instincts. And so, that's part of the reason that like Raditz and Vegeta and a lot of these characters are such a good foil to Goku. Yeah, because they reflect that sort of struggle that Sun Wukong had to deal with. But by the end of Journey to the West, Sun Wukong learns the principles of Buddhist martial arts, and he uses that to sort of tame his wild nature. And there's a lot of aspects of Goku's character that are directly reflected in Goku. One thing that Derek was talking about earlier was about the idea of people being possessed by Sun Wukong, and you can kind of call Sun Wukong almost like the OG exorcist. Like he's known to be able to purify people of evil and demons and stuff like that because he himself had to do that to himself. He had to go through a process of purification himself. But all of that stuff is reflective of Goku's character arc, Vegeta's character arc. Goku's character arc, interestingly enough, is almost like Sun Wukong's character arc backwards. It's not exactly the same, but it's almost like his character arc.
We've talked about that on Mangalorian. It's like Vegeta.
It's more like how Sun Wukong typically developed in terms of him starting off being a very egotistical character. Goku sort of skipped that step because whenever he landed on Earth and he hit his head and he was raised by Grandpa Gohan, he never had the opportunity to become someone like Vegeta. He is since the time he was a kid, he essentially had the sort of nature that Sun Wukong develops by the end of Journey to the West as a novel. And that's kind of what separates the two characters, is the fact that Goku has a nature that's much more reminiscent to who Sun Wukong became by the end of the novel, and Vegeta has a nature that's much more reminiscent of early Wukong while he was still a conqueror and trying to take over heaven. So,
but they both rubbed off on each other.
Yeah, the key is to find balance.
Yeah, right.
Key.
Well,
yeah.
Derek talks about that in the Over 9,000 book. Is there anything Derek? Is there anything you want to comment on that particular aspect of Goku to add?
Sure. Yeah. Well, when the Journey to the West starts, Sun Wukong has a divine birth. He's born from a stone, and the deities in heaven are even astounded by what they're seeing and hearing from infinite miles away. They're able to, like, wow, look at that burst of light and what's going on here. They're all amazed by this being. And Sun Wukong has every reason to be egotistical because he became the king of Flower Fruit Mountain.
Sounds a lot like Vegeta.
Yeah, and he traveled the world and he met Taoist masters and he learned their arts faster than other disciples, the same way that Goku does. Like, so there's all the reason to think that he was superior to the other deities, but the other deities didn't give him the respect that he thought he deserved, and he ended up rebelling against them in a way that's well, we see traits of that in like Vegeta rebelling against Frieza, right? Sun Wukong rebels against the Jade Emperor because the Jade Emperor put him in charge of the stables, the heavenly horses, where his job was to clean up manure and take care of these horses rather than do something that he felt like was more befitting of his greatness. And so he does all these things. He eats immortal peaches from the garden, and he gets slammed underneath the Five Fingers Mountain by the Buddha because he learns the hard way that there's nobody higher than the Buddha. And then, of course, he has to suffer by being force-fed hot iron pellets and all these other things. But 500 years later, he's given a chance at redemption. He goes on this journey. He's given redemption by Bodhisattva Guanyin, the Buddhist equivalent of Saint Mary, who offers him compassion. So yeah, he starts off sort of as like the one you're hearing about, but he's actually not the main character because Tripitaka, the Tang monk, is the main character, and it's his journey, and that's the character that inspired Bulma, the Buddhist monk. Toriyama takes that character,
the friend of the monkey.
Yes, transforms the monk into a science girl, turns the boy into a girl, and she uses science instead of Buddhist mantras to elicit change on the world and the environment around her, and then pairs her up with his version of the Monkey King. And there's all these contrasts of opposites that are going on in the early chapters, but also opposites at play between the original source material of Journey to the West and modern storytelling, and aesthetics and the way that Toriyama presents the story. So Toriyama goes back and forth and he puts these things against one another to create this contrast that's easy for his young audience to understand. Because he was writing for 12-year-old Japanese boys, and his editors kept enforcing upon him, make it easy to understand, like make the line art easy to follow, the panel arrangement, all these things, and the storytelling and the cultural elements also had to be easy to understand.
Yeah, it's simplified.
He never hits you over the head with all of this culture and history and the archetypes and the psychological things that are going on, like we're talking about in this episode. But they're there because he weaves them into the story in such a way that anybody can pick up if you're paying attention to the symbols. And that's why I wrote my books, because I was seeing these things. I was studying East Asian studies, and I was reading Dragon Ball and watching Dragon Ball, and then I would go onto the internet to learn more about this, and nobody was talking about that. But I was seeing it. I'm like, why is nobody seeing what I'm seeing? this right here. It's
relatable.
I would be in class and the professor was talking about these symbols, and then I would be like, yes, that's the symbol he was just talking about. I have to share this with other fans because it's important. And these are deep, meaningful symbols and lessons that I'm getting from Dragon Ball, and it's changing my life. It inspired me to do the martial arts, to get into Buddhism and Taoism, meditation, and to eventually train with the Shaolin monks in Beijing. So it transformed my life and the lives of millions of others around the world. And that's really the heart of why I do what I do and dive so deep into it. And also, complete contrast to that, the opposite perspective is Torishima himself saying there's nothing to learn from Dragon Ball, and it's just a simple story. And like, it blew my mind when he said
I
that.
love Torishima, but he's not always right.
Yeah, I mean, Dragon Ball saved my life when I was depressed as a teenager and I became suicidal. I was going to kill myself, but the philosophy and spirit of Goku inspired me to persevere. And it's because of that spirit of perseverance that I'm still alive today. So if it weren't for Dragon Ball and it weren't for Akira Toriyama's work, I would be dead. And I wouldn't have written all of my books and we wouldn't be having this conversation. So I owe my life to Toriyama. And when he died, it was one of the most devastating things I've ever been through. I'm still recovering from it, in fact, which is why my writing is basically flatlined since he died. It's been a real struggle since he just all of a sudden left us.
Too young, way too young.
Yeah, especially for a Japanese guy. I mean,
yeah, they live forever.
Yeah, the longest lived people in the world. So that really hit me, and the series means a lot to me. So I think everything I say in my books is based on facts, and I provide evidence for every single one of those things as an objective scholar. But I am also a subjective fan of the series because it means so much to me, and it's just fun. It's an enjoyable series for everybody across the world, from kids to adults. And so there's so much to just fall in love with, and it keeps getting deeper and deeper.
Yeah, and we always discover new things. I wanted to real quick address this. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to address this. We're going to do the final super chats, and then I have one last topic before we get out of here. One last topic. But Trenton says, now, how do I get someone who's a devoted Christian to watch Dragon Ball knowing it has roots in Buddhism and Taoism? Because it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what it has roots in. Like, are you saying that that person can only watch non-secular stuff? So you're saying they're only limited to watching movies about Jesus? I don't think so, bro. Dragon Ball is no different than Marvel. Marvel has gods. DC has gods. Obviously, like, even if you're a monotheist and you believe in the Judeo-Christian God, this is fiction, bro. Like, are you saying you're not going to ever watch a movie that has other gods in it? You know what? There are people like that. In fact, I remember in 2016, I got an email from a viewer, and he said, can you please stop referring to the form as Super Saiyan God? It goes against my religion. And I basically told him in a real nice way to go fuck himself, because I'm not going to change the way that I didn't name the form. Okay, I didn't name the form. So if I start calling it Super Saiyan Deity or Super Saiyan Red, people are going to look at me like I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, I'm sorry, but the word God does not take Toriyama, and not just him. Any fiction that has gods in it, whether it be monotheistic or polytheistic, should not interfere with your like experience watching fiction. And he says they think mediums with false gods think watching is giving validity to false gods. Brother, I'm going to tell you something right now. So you think watching Dragon Ball gives validity to false gods? I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I'm going to get on full camera for this. You ready? Beerus is not real. I just want you to know that. He's not real, bro.
On that note, in the Western dub, they changed his name from God of Destruction to the Destroyer.
Destroyer, yeah. Right. Which is
God
not, in it. Yeah, it's not that crazy, but they didn't change Super Saiyan God.
Right.
Super Saiyan Kami.
You
Okay.
can't change that.
Right. Hoop Baby says, what's Goku's worst traits that you wish he would grow from? I don't know, man, because I think people misunderstand his traits. Like when people say that Goku in Super was written more dumb than Goku from Z, I sort of get where they're coming from, but I don't think it's that extreme. Is there any answer you guys have about changing Goku's traits?
I don't think his worst traits are his best traits, and that's what's so ironic about it.
It's weird.
That's what's so ironic about it is that.
Go ahead.
Well, is that the decisions that fans get mad at him, like when fans get mad at Goku for making like a particular decision and they try to point out his flaws, those decisions always end up being the correct decisions within the story. The fans don't have like a really good track record when it comes to
I was about to say, to play devil's advocate, the one that most people bring up is when Goku gave a Senzu to Cell.
Right.
And gave him all of his energy back to restore his health. But he did that because he wanted Gohan to reach the next level. And the same way that Goku does, like I said, he doesn't fight to conquer others, he fights to conquer himself. Yeah. And Cell had already been worn down at that point. And so he wanted Gohan to have that same opportunity so that he could ascend. And he did. So in the end, things tend to work out in Goku's favor based off his actions that people criticize, but it does take a lot of sacrifice and hard effort because and to be fair, not everybody is like Goku. Like that was the whole dynamic of Gohan's personality is that he's half human. So
one of the things they teach or they sort of like hint at or allude to in Journey to the West is that Taoist gods do have the benefit of being Taoist gods. But that benefit is always short term. And in the long term, they're always going to have to deal with the fact that they aren't Buddhas. They still exist within samsara. So they'll have like short term success and short term pleasure and things of that nature because they're Taoist gods who are taking advantage of spiritual cultivation to become gods. But they're never going to be free of suffering. They're always going to deal with long-term consequences, despite the fact that they do things to avert the short-term consequences that they have to deal with. And Goku kind of does the opposite. He suffers in the short term, but in the long term, he always has more success and more enjoyment than he does in the short term. And that's something that like Vegeta and Goku kind of contrast each other in that sense and that's something you'll notice with Vegeta. Vegeta will temporarily surpass Goku, and he'll reap the benefits. Yeah, he'll reap the benefits of his philosophy and his mentality, and he'll temporarily surpass Goku, and he'll feel invincible and on top of the world. But in the long term, Vegeta suffers way more than Goku ever has. So there is something to that in that, yes, some of the decisions that Goku makes cause short-term consequences, but they also cause long-term resolution and long-term prosperity for everybody else rather than just short-term benefit for himself, you know.
And also to add to what Derek said, because we have to add this in my opinion, because I don't want people are going to like, the other reason as to why Goku gave Cell the Senzu is because A, he didn't want any excuses. Well, Goku, you softened me up, so of course the boy beat me. No, you're at full health. 2, he had that much confidence in Gohan. Jordan and I have talked about this on multiple streams. Was that a risky decision? Yes. Goku took a very big risk by giving Cell the Senzu. Everyone acknowledges that logically Goku should have never done that because it's stupid. This guy's evil. He's going to blow up the planet. But he did it for those 2 reasons, besides what Derek said. And also that follows the spirit of the martial arts. How fair is it that you and I get into a fight and then the fight ends and you have to fight my son and you haven't even had a break to rest? I softened you up. Of course my kid's going to kick your ass. And that's what people misunderstand about that Senzu part.
Gohan also starts to stray away from the principles that Goku is so dedicated to whenever he becomes Super Saiyan 2, and things start to fall apart as a result of that. Everything that Goku has like built up as a side effect of like staying true to his principles would have been destroyed if Goku allowed Gohan to continue to behave the way that he did. Just like if Goku didn't stick to his principles and his teaching as a martial artist on Namek, he would have also suffered for that as well. So that's like a recurring theme in the series, is that by staying true to the principles that Goku was taught, he's always rewarded more in the long term, despite the fact that he's punished in the short term. The second that somebody like Gohan or Vegeta or any character that practices something contradictory to what Goku practices becomes the main focus, it becomes very clear that if any other character was the focus and practiced things in a way that was opposite to Goku, the plot wouldn't reward them in the same way, because that's just not the formula that Dragon Ball
Dharma,
is known for, or what made Dragon Ball successful.
Is it not Dharma, the Indian idea behind like you read?
Yeah, it is. It is. But it is essentially cause and effect. But the way that they go about doing it in Dragon Ball, I think, is much more simplified and easy to understand and digest. So.
Okay, let me continue here. And I do like what you said. JD says, to clarify, Derek, I brought up Aristotle and by extension Western philosophy, as this would be intersection with the East. Well, yeah, that's why I mentioned earlier Bulma and Goku. Journey to the West is a collectivist story about reforming behavior through Buddhism. Is that something that's fair to say?
The last part for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's an allegory for how to improve yourself and attain Buddhahood. It's told through an adventure, and it's got poetry in it, and
and Goku's always surpassing himself.
Yeah, and just thousands of different examples of Chinese culture that were influenced by India, which comes from the West, as far as China is concerned. And the way that all of these little things mix together. For even more information about Journey to the West, check out journeytothewestresearch.com.
Yeah, he is amazing. That's a good plug. I love Jim.
It's written by a friend of mine named Jim McClanahan, and he's got some articles about Dragon Ball, and he goes deep into it and the comparisons or inspirations between Journey to the West and Dragon Ball. So those could be good articles to start with. And then as you read the book, Journey to the West, or just want to dive into some of the details, check out his other articles, because he's got like hundreds of them. And
one of my favorite articles from him is where he points out that the fighting style that Sun Wukong, Bruce Lee, and Goku used are like almost exactly the same. They're like basically identical. I love that he pointed that out. That was one of my favorite things that he ever called attention to. I think that's awesome.
And of course, check out Jordan's channel. Jay Fox, who has more potential, Uber Broly? I did a video years ago on this channel, and my opinion has not changed, about who has more potential. And in that video, I discussed Broly, Jiren, and Frieza. Because remember, we found out in the Super era that Frieza now has all this potential that he can unlock higher forms in different colors. So that's already been covered in that. Now, the last topic I want to get into with you guys is the aspect of Goku and his arc ending at the end of OG Dragon Ball. I see a lot of people say, like, and they're not incorrect necessarily, but they say things like, well, if you don't watch original Dragon Ball or read the first 16 volumes, you're not going to understand Goku. And there's truth to that. You're not going to understand Goku, what Ten Shin Han went through, how he met Chi-Chi, Yamcha, all that stuff, how Yamcha and Bulma got together. All of that stuff is in OG Dragon Ball, which is why I said at the beginning of the stream, Dragon Ball and Z are one series. Raditz is not the beginning of the story. I don't give a fuck what the video games say. It's not, all right? Now, with that being said, so Goku goes from being a kid, losing in 2 tournaments, winning the 3rd one, making all these friends, and then he gets married. That's why I said that the ending of OG Dragon Ball, where Goku and Chi-Chi fly off together in the Nimbus, That's actually a beautiful ending. That is a beautiful ending. So I feel like that is what's the word? Like you could have ended it there, and then people say, well, that's Goku's character arc. And they're right, but not entirely. Because I think people think that Goku's character arc in Z doesn't exist. And you're wrong. Goku is still learning, not just from Kaio and all his other, like, later on, Whis, way later on, but there's other things that Goku learned. And I feel like starting with the Saiyan saga, Toriyama started to write Goku out of the story. Because if you start reading it from Z, or if you get to 16 and up, he's always being written out. He dies in the Saiyan saga. He's on his way to Namek. Then he gets taken out again when he switched by Ginyu. Then in the Cell saga, he has the heart attack. Then he's in training with Gohan while there's stuff going on the outside of the Room of Spirit and Time. Then in the Buu saga, he's dead during a lot of it. Toriyama wrote Goku out of a lot of the Z stuff and used it to develop other characters. Now, that's smart. That's smart that he kept coming up with ways to write them out. But doesn't mean Goku didn't learn. And one of the things that I want to discuss with you guys is the little lessons that Goku learned along the way. With the Saiyan saga and the Frieza saga, both of those come together because Goku begins that arc. And I'm going to pull up the manga here when I can, okay? So I can get it right. But he starts that arc, dude, not wanting to be a Saiyan. I'm not a Saiyan. I'm from Earth. I'm nothing like you people, blah, blah, blah. Then on Namek, when Vegeta dies and then Krillin dies and he becomes a Super Saiyan, that's the culmination where he realizes physically, I cannot run away from my bloodline. Now, a lot of people make the mistake of saying that the reason why Goku is so competitive is because of the biology. There's truth to that, but that's not the real reason. The real reason is what we talked about earlier. Me and Jordan talked about it, fighting spirit. He's a martial artist. He wants to fight against the best. Toriyama just came up with a biological reason just to kind of make it more sci-fi. Yeah, but it's always been Goku's always wanted to fight other strong guys. How do we know?
The evidence
is that Tenshin, Han, and Frieza want to do it too.
Well, he blatantly says at the end of the original Dragon Ball, whenever he's exuding the type of behavior that you're talking about. And people are like, why does he act that way? And this is at the end of the original Dragon Ball. It has nothing to do with Z. Right. He says, it's because of my pride as a martial artist. I mean, he blatantly says it. So, yeah.
And I feel like, so he learns more about himself and Super Saiyan and all that. But then, and this is something people don't pick up on. And I want to really hammer this home, all right? Because this is what I'm about to tell you. Is not something that's outwardly said by Goku. You have to read the context and read between the lines. In the Android / Cell saga, one of the big key points that we learn about very early in the story is, holy shit, Goku is not immortal. The idea is Goku dies and the future's fucked up. So people ask, why was Goku so serious about training Gohan? Why did he really want to get Gohan up to speed when it comes to being a better martial artist? Because Goku realized that in the future, he died of the heart virus and he felt the pain in the regular timeline when he was fighting 19. He knew he's not going to live forever. And we have to have a new savior on Earth to protect the planet. He never says this, but it's blatant. And he sees potential in Gohan. From the very beginning, there's potential in Gohan. But Goku never says this, but it's true. Like, he wanted to make sure there was somebody else around to protect the Earth from people like Cell and Frieza. Yeah. Then, in the Buu saga, final lesson that Goku learned This is why I used to think that the Cell Saga should have been the end until I thought more about the Buu Saga. In the Buu Saga, Goku realizes everyone can pitch in, because if it wasn't for everyone, all the people he saved, all the people he confronted throughout the years, like Devil Man and Mummy Man and 17, they all raised their hands up to give Goku energy for the Genki Dama, because Goku realized everyone needs to help us fight this enemy. If you say that there's no arc with Goku, you're media illiterate, bro. It's right there. Even in Z, it's right there. Derek, without spoiling your upcoming books, is there anything you want to add to what I said?
No,
I know I said a lot, bro. I'm sorry.
You guys are doing a great job, and I already wrote the book on that with Goku.
Yeah.
In the same arc. So
well, you're gonna go more into it with when you do the Z stuff, because there's more stuff after.
Yeah, there is for sure. That book focuses mostly on the Saiyan and Frieza arcs, but it does touch on Buu as well. But also, it's worth mentioning that Toriyama got a different editor again in the Perfect Cell arc.
The fat guy, I forget his name.
I
know he's the fat guy.
Takeda, yeah.
Right, Takeda, yeah.
Yeah, and he had a more of a laissez-faire attitude that let Toriyama do what he wanted to do, which is why Toriyama sort of went back to his more humor-focused writing. And he had more fun with it. And really, like, Toriyama didn't even want to do anymore, but he let him, he couldn't, because Dragon Ball was the cash cow for Shonen Jump. Yeah, and so Toriyama did what he wanted to do, and he made an amazing series, a conclusion to his manga in a Toriyama fashion, and he built on everything else that he had established. So I love the Buu arc. I think it's a great story. It's fun. You can see all the action, and the panel arrangement's still tremendous. His line art's beautiful. Some of the panels, some of his work is questionable because he was tired. There's all sorts of reasons for that, but in general, it's amazing. And to touch back on the subject of the ending, the thing about Dragon Ball, and you mentioned this earlier, was that there's always a person beyond that person that to fight, some other thing to conquer, or to go beyond some level to transcend. And I mentioned that in volume 3 of Dragon Ball culture. In Chinese culture, it's called there's always a mountain beyond the mountain, which means no matter how much you've climbed up, you get to the top of the mountain peak, you look out from that vantage point and you see a taller mountain on the horizon, and you realize there's a higher level. I need to go climb that mountain. And then you climb that mountain, and from that vantage point, you see on the horizon there's an even higher mountain. And that philosophy is at the heart of Dragon Ball. And so when Goku flies off after the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai with Chi-Chi, he has surpassed God. He has become more powerful than Kami, and he has done what Kami could not do, which was to defeat himself, his other half, Piccolo. But that wasn't the end. And so the story kept going, and then he reached the next level, and the next level after that, all the way into the end of the Buu arc, where he flies off again, but this time he gives the Kinto-Un to Oob, with the idea being that there is another higher mountain beyond that. And that's what's so amazing about Toriyama's endings, is that it's not
the
an end. Yeah, it keeps going.
I think Super handled that pretty
allows
well.
us to connect to it as well.
Yeah, moving on to gods and like something more akin to what the Taoist gods in Super, I think, is a side effect of that mentality. I think it's a very similar thing. It's just like a natural conclusion to the story. But to get back to like Goku's character arc, because I can tell that's what you kind of wanted to get into, Danny.
In the Z portion, because people say, and I get it. No, there's truth. Like, okay, Goku gets married and flies off. Yes, you could have ended the series there, because let me tell you something. I'm of Hispanic descent, and we have these things called novellas. Anybody who's in the chat who's Hispanic will know this. Every single damn novella ends with a wedding. it's always some big wedding and they run off together. They freeze frame it, fiend onto the next one. So Goku getting married with Chi and flying off and starting a family, that works, but there's still more in Z. That's what I wanted y'all to talk about, and I appreciate it. Jordan, go for it.
So one of the biggest arguments I've seen that people use in terms of Goku not having a character arc is this interview from Toriyama where Toriyama said whenever we got into the Dragon Ball Renaissance and Battle of Gods came out, they asked Toriyama in an interview if the characters had changed. And Toriyama said that Goku never changes. And I think a lot of people misunderstand what Toriyama meant by that.
Yeah, he didn't mean that literally.
Toriyama is referring to Goku's nature. Okay. Goku's nature is sort of like the moral end. It's the moral and philosophical end goal of the rest of the characters within the series. That's the reason that Zeno likes Goku. Goku is essentially kind of treated as like the pinnacle of the type of mortal that the gods are trying to create in Dragon Ball. He's essentially like what they've been doing that for a long time. Kami calls attention to that by talking about how he wanted to keep the Dragon Balls around because he felt that Goku was an example of the type of mortal that he was trying to develop. So they've discussed this before. Goku is sort of like the moral. He's sort of like the foundation of the story in terms of where all the other characters are trying to go. That's why Vegeta becomes more like Goku, Gohan becomes more like Goku, Piccolo becomes more like Goku, is because Goku is sort of treated as like the end. He's like the finish line. He's like the end goal in terms of like spiritual development. And in that sense, that's something that they can't change about Goku, because Goku is, in that sense, like he represents the moral foundation of the series, and the nature, the type of nature that he has, is the type of nature that the other characters within the series are trying to strive for. And that's essentially what Toriyama is trying to say when he says that Goku never changes, is that his nature never changes. Like what makes him Goku and what makes him important to the story never changes. But that doesn't mean that Goku doesn't learn things. That doesn't mean that he doesn't go through things and develop as a character. It just means that who he is at his core never really changes. And that's just something that I kind of wanted to call attention to, because a lot of people misunderstand that due to Toriyama saying that. And I sort of just wanted to make sure that that's acknowledged and debunked. So
yeah, and to touch back on Journey to the West, Sun Wukong does that in a similar way. He changes the other monks, the pilgrims that are traveling along with them on their journey to India. Like Juba Jay changes, Sha Wujing changes, and along this journey, Sun Wukong is the one who defeats most of the opponents because he's the strongest. I mean, that's just who he is, and Goku's the same way.
Yep.
This super chat's weird. He says, "Did Hit visit Akira Toriyama, or was it natural? No money involved." I think he's implying that somebody put a hit out on Toriyama, and that's how he died. I don't know what you've been reading, bro. Probably Instagram and Facebook, who are a fucking fountain of misinformation.
I would log off for a little while.
I think he's making a Dragon Ball joke about Hit from Dragon Ball Super.
No, I think he is. No, he is. But I'm saying he's been implying that Toriyama was assassinated because Hit's an assassin. And no, Toriyama died of a brain injury. Like, who would, honestly, real shit, who would want to kill Toriyama? That man's done nothing to anyone. Huh?
Yeah, he's universally loved.
Dude, who would want to do that? It's like that there's, okay, yeah, the guy's rich. I know some people hate rich people, but it's not like he just got inheritance. He worked for it. This guy was this man was writing a chapter a week for like 11 years straight. And if you don't include the little vacation he took, it's even further than that. It's like 16 years. If you go back to Slump, there was a vacation in between.
I think it's just a bad taste joke, and we shouldn't give it too much attention.
No, I know, but I'm just talking about how Toriyama. I don't like people say Toriyama's lazy. I hate that. I hate it so much. And also the idea that he's a discovery writer, he is, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't have an idea of where he wants to go. Toriyama being a discovery writer, I think people think that he makes it all up as he goes along. And that's not true. He does make it up chapter by chapter. But when Toriyama first teased Super Saiyan in the Namek arc, not what Nappa said earlier, but in the Namek Frieza saga, he probably already knew at that point Goku's going to do it, but he wasn't sure how yet. I don't think he knew, like, okay, Krillin's going to die, and then Piccolo's going to get injured. I don't think that went through his head. But I think his idea was, okay, if I'm going to end this arc with Son Goku versus Frieza, something has to happen. Other than Kaioken times 1,000. He was like, well, let's just use Super Saiyan. So that's something that people have to understand.
It was a natural conclusion to Goku's character arc.
And that's another arc. The Saiyan arc.
Yeah.
Go ahead. That's another arc inside the big arc.
That's something that a lot of Discovery writers take advantage of, is natural conclusionary writing, meaning that there's a natural conclusion to a lot of storytelling. The details are extremely important when it comes to that style of storytelling, but it's just, a lot of Dragon Ball is just like natural conclusions as a side effect of the themes and stuff that Toriyama is using within Dragon Ball. So
I agree, it wasn't that funny. Okay, before we get out of here, once again, I want to give promotion to Tao of Dragon Ball. I have the other books back there, but this is the one I want to have to get up. This is volume 2. Again, even more granular studies on the series than we did on Mangalorian, because like we mentioned earlier, this is for the new people joining us, Derek goes panel by panel, and then he will, in this book, he'll explain like the etymology of the word. Like, for example, Tenkaichi Budokai, and he'll go into like what each syllable means. And then he'll say, well, in this panel, this was inspired by this Bruce Lee movie. And then in this panel, so it's the most dense, compact information about Dragon Ball anywhere. So this is like PhD level. If the other day in Missed Air Fusion server, we were talking about Dragon Ball University, and somebody gave me a pretty good compliment. I think they thought I was going to get offended, but they gave me a compliment. They said, okay, if Geekdom 101 is the master's degree of Dragon Ball, Lance is the PhD. I didn't get mad at that, because I can teach PhD courses, but the master's degree, I think it works better for me because of my personality. I think the difference between me and Lance is that I'm a little bit better when dealing with like certain types of fans than he is. I have more of a temper than he had, but I'm working on that. But what I was going to say is, if you want to go to the peak PhD program, these are the books you have to read. Like, if you think that my channel is the master's degree, which I respect that is a great compliment. Then you can pick your doctoral. This is so silly. Pick your doctoral major if you want to learn about. This is so stupid. If you want to learn about Journey to the West, go to Jordan's channel. If you want to learn about animation, go to Forgotten Relics. He's the best. But this book is like the PhD program. I hope you like that plug, Derek. Make sure the check's in the mail.
Thank you.
Make sure the check's in the mail.
Yeah, I see a lot of people who are appreciating and saying that they're going to pick up a copy. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and
yes. Thank you so much.
There's 6 books out right now. You don't have to buy them all in one day, although if you can, go for it. But each one like covers a section of Dragon Ball. Do you recommend that they get the over 9,000 book first, in your opinion?
That's the one most people start with. Yeah, because it's the thinnest.
Yeah, it's easy read.
You can finish it in a day or even a few hours. Like that, I have many people in Italy say.
I'm sure you would
agree with that. That's a great idea, Clips.
They want you to have a YouTube channel, which I think you do have one.
I do. Yeah, I was about to say that. It's at Derek Padula. Just type in my name and it'll come up on YouTube. That's the same thing for all my socials, except for Facebook, which is Dragon Ball Scholar, because they don't let you use your real name for business. But I have not done as much with my YouTube channel as Danny and Jordan have, and I need to do more with it, because that's where people prefer to watch videos instead of read. I know that's a fact. And they like to listen to audio. instead of read. And Dragon Ball is an anime, so it makes sense. But my brain works as a writer, so I need to do more with that. Yeah, and I have all of the Birdland Press issues related to Dragon Ball, and I need to do more with those as well. So there's nobody else in the world who has them. So in fact, let me just
we didn't even explain to the people what Birdland Press was. I know we talked about it earlier, but I don't think we actually explained it to them. You know, I have a shirt that says Birdland Press, and I think I showed it to you.
These right here.
Yeah.
Put my headphones back in.
Oh, okay, he didn't hear what I said. Never mind. What I was saying when you stepped away is I tried to explain to them, but you go ahead. I have a shirt that has that on it, but go ahead.
Okay, so these are the Birdland Press issues. They're like little mini volumes, and they go into all of the details of the origin of Dragon Ball as it was coming out. And not just that, but Akira Toriyama's life and the things that nobody knew about, including his wife, stories from his wife and their trip to China, adventures, in Bali, things like that, all the way.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend his channel, guys. It's great.
Thanks. But I actually need to make more of these things. They take a lot of work, so I got to translate all of them. And I just haven't, but I will. And I will make videos. So follow me there. And also, when you join my giveaway, you get a lot more entries in the giveaway by subscribing to my YouTube channel. That's the best way to get more entries. So if you really want to win this Goku figure, then subscribe to my YouTube and you'll have the greatest chance. Also, you get entries for referring your friends. And there's lots of ways by following me on social media. So by the way, that volume 25 has that.
That's it. That's the official art. Wait, turn it back around though.
This is the first place it ever appeared.
Okay, okay. That makes me. It gives me a chubby, and I'll tell you why. That is Toriyama drawing Senbei and Dr. Morishito as the hero from Dragon Quest III and the final villain Zoma. And look at Zoma with the third eye. Toriyama designed the third eye in 1987, not with Daima. This has been an idea.
That's actually Toriyama drawing himself. That's actually Toriyama himself.
I thought that was Mashirito. Although you're right, it is, because Mashirito was giving him a hard Torishima was giving him a hard time. My bad. I thought it was Senbei for a minute there.
No, that's Toriyama.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's all Dragon Quest 3 based, bro. And you know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Gives me a chubby. Yeah, this I'm very proud to have this, bro. This is Robo Toriyama or Toribot with the cape and the green tracksuit. I have this by my desk because, contrary to what you may read from less informed people, Toriyama was not lazy. Now, did Toriyama work a lot less in his retirement? Of course he did. But when he was working actively, drawing Slump and Dragon Ball, he was also helping with video games like Dragon Quest, Chrono Trigger. He was doing one-shots. It wasn't like all he had was Dragon Ball. There was all kinds of projects all over the place that would overwhelm most normal people. And he did it. So the Japanese people are they're very hardworking. So check out Derek's channel. I think we went over that. Dragon Soul is the over 9,000 book, right?
Well, no, Dragon Soul is the book about the fans.
Oh, that's the book about the fans. Yeah. That's right. I have that one too.
This one you can start with. So it's over 9,000 is about psychology. Dragon Ball Culture is about culture and history and language. And Dragon Soul is filled with inspirational stories from Dragon Ball fans, just like you, including cosplayers and people who became YouTubers. And so if you want to be inspired and understand why Dragon Ball is so popular and touches people in a deeper way, Dragon Soul is the book to get. It made me cry while I was writing it, and it makes me cry every time I read it because Dragon Ball has transformed the world. And I believe Dragon Soul proves it. And it also has a foreword by Sean Schemmel and Christopher Sabat as a fusion foreword, which was a great honor.
Gogeta gave you a foreword.
Yeah.
Literally in the book. But we're not done. We have one more. We have one super chat here from Hoop Baby. He says, Jordan, where do you think Dragon Ball should head using Journey to the West as the reference and where they haven't gone? haven't gone and reflect to. I guess he means what else can they take from Journey to the West and make it into a Dragon Ball arc. I kind of get what he's talking about.
I would say probably the natural conclusion to that is Goku having a tournament where he fights the gods. I think that would
I'm
be
down for that.
Next. Yeah.
Derek, do you have anything you want to add as far as like?
Oh yeah, I've had many thoughts about this subject. The real, so what Jordan just mentioned is like sort of going back to when the Monkey King rebels against the Jade Emperor, and going back to the roots is always a great idea. If you're talking about the end of Dragon Ball, then it would be logical to use the end of Journey to the West, where Sun Wukong attains Buddhahood, the Buddha victorious in strife, because he's a martial artist. But in order to do that, Goku would have to rise up higher than Zeno-sama, and he would have to rise up beyond Beerus, and he would have to, the Grand Priest, and all these other deities.
There's a lot left
that might be even higher. But the most important thing is that he would need an opponent who is also at that level. And to do that, you would have to go back to Buddha Shakyamuni, where in order for Shakyamuni to attain Buddhahood, he needed to face the great demon king. And in India, who I want to say his name is Mara.
Daimao.
In Japanese, Daimao. And so he had to be tempted by all of these different illusions, like sexuality, greed, worldly attachments, sentimentality, and other emotions that Shakyamuni had to transcend in order to attain Buddhahood. Now, Dragon Ball is a martial arts series. So Goku ascends by using martial arts and fighting against strong opponents who force him to conquer himself at that level. But the villains are always at a higher level than he is when he is forced to face them. And what's fascinating is that the higher he rises up and trains, because he knows he's going to have to fight again, and he loves to train in order to conquer himself at all times, the higher the villain is when they show up. And they seem to gravitate toward him wherever he is in the universe. So there would have to be an antagonist who is even higher than Goku when he's close to reaching that level of Buddhahood, which means he would have to have transcended beyond all of those deities first just to get to that level. And then there's got to be a new villain who was like some kind of super demon that covers the entire cosmos. Okay. And then Goku has to find a way to defeat that villain by defeating himself. So that's going to take some creative writing and some
like
deep
Goku
knowledge.
Black almost.
Sure. Yeah. He's going to have to, whoever makes that story would have to have some deep knowledge of the culture that inspired Dragon Ball, like we've been talking about today. And then, of course, that might not be the end. Let's say Goku attains Buddhahood. But as I mentioned, Toriyama's writing style is that there's no finite ending. It keeps going. So there's always a higher mountain. And in fact, when it comes to Buddhahood, there are higher levels beyond the level that Buddha Sakyamuni attained, which was the level of Tathagata. There are levels beyond that and beyond that and beyond that. So this Dragon Ball story could go on forever. And there could always be ways to reference the Journey to the West source material.
And I want to just I was going to add that my opinion, everything is fine. I think at some point though, and I'm not saying this year, I do think it would be better if at some point we actually got a definitive end to Goku's story. I'm not saying he has to die or anything. What I'm saying is for the future of Dragon Ball at some point, again, I'm not saying now, they should put an end to Goku's journey, right? And kind of tie it all back together and then use the universe that Toriyama created to launch other stories. This is the Marvel Star Wars thing that I wish Toei and Shueisha would do. You don't have to keep Goku going, but you have all these characters like Hit, like the Pride Troopers. They could have their own mangas. You could do a Pride Troopers manga that's like My Hero Academia. There are so many. Toriyama's come up with I said it 10 years ago that he's got 10 years worth of stories. I said that famously on this channel. And actually, it's more than 10. You could do the Ribrianne show, which is like Sailor Moon. You have all these little like sort of side characters that can get their own stories, and then Dragon Ball will continue through them.
Well, particularly after the Tournament of Power, they have created this opportunity for that in the sense that Goku has had such a major impact on the multiverse that everybody you can essentially take like that effect that Goku's had on these characters, which again is very similar to the effect that Grandpa Gohan had on Goku. And you can essentially apply Goku's character arc to almost any character that Goku has had an effect on and use those narrative themes and stuff to your advantage in order to make their story more interesting. So they have created like a unique opportunity for that to happen. I'm not like, I do think that would be cool. In terms of having like an end all be all to Goku's story and like, Goku's character arc and that kind of stuff, I think they're sort of going in that direction. Part of the reason that I brought up the Destroyer Gods is because I see the Destroyer Gods as like a sort of a foil to Goku's philosophy, but a foil that's not painted in a bad light. And what I mean by that is destruction is a necessity. It's not something that's morally looked down upon within the Dragon Ball universe. It's actually kind of looked at as a necessity, and it's looked at as a necessity in general within Eastern philosophy and things of that nature. But I think that is sort of the lens that they could use to craft the type of character that Derek was talking about, is the necessity of destruction in comparison to Goku's approach to that whole thing. If there was a character who really, even more so than Beerus, embodied the foil to Goku's philosophy in the sense that there is an argument to be made that destruction is necessary, that I think would be the direction to go for that sort of character. So,
okay, we've been here for over 3 hours. Derek, thank you so much for your time. I wanted to go like 2.5, but this one went a little bit long. So I apologize if I dug into anything you were doing tonight. Before we get out of here,
this is my thrill. I live for this, so I'm so glad to be here. Yeah, and also I want to give a big thanks to everyone in the chat for all the nice comments. I can't believe you guys have been sitting here for 3 hours too. So,
bro,
you guys are awesome.
I could talk about this all night, bro.
They love it.
Yeah. There's been nights in the Discord server where we talk till like 3-4 in the morning about other things too, but there have been a few Dragon Ball talks. Don't forget, folks, the DaoDragonBall.com. Now, before we get out, all right, I wanted to ask both you and Jordan to like now sort of give your final thoughts on Goku's character arc. Basically, I want you to tell the people anything that you've had, any idea or any thought you've had in the back of your head that you haven't said yet on the stream to illustrate Goku's character arc. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So let it all out now. Jordan, you go first, and then Derek.
Okay, I'll go first. I want to focus around things that Toriyama has said about Goku, because I think that that's very, very important in terms of fan reception to Goku's character. Toriyama has said a few things about his distaste for how Goku is characterized sometimes, and I think people really misunderstand what Toriyama means when he talks about these things. So one of the things that Toriyama has said is that he does not like the righteous hero of justice portrayal that the Dragon Ball Z anime gave Goku. And people take this as Toriyama saying that Goku is not a hero, and that's not what he's saying. He's saying that he doesn't like the righteous hero portrayal of Goku, meaning he doesn't like Goku portrayed as a righteous hero. And
he's a whole different type of hero.
Yeah, and the reason he doesn't want that is because most righteous heroes are only heroes as an extension of self-gratification, and he doesn't want Goku to be a character who does things for self-gratification because that is inherently impure. Another thing that Toriyama said afterwards in that same interview is that he wanted to portray to the reader that there was nobody more pure than Goku within the entire story, and that his purity comes from the fact that he has a genuine drive to get stronger. And I think a lot of people also misunderstand that as well. The narrative purpose of Goku's journey is essentially to make sure that he doesn't lose himself to all the trials and things that he goes through. He essentially, the entire point of his journey is to not lose that purity that Toriyama is referencing here. When Roshi and Krillin, make it clear in the original Dragon Ball that they can't ride, the cloud, because they're impure. That is essentially definitive of the actual narrative of Dragon Ball. Is that Goku's struggle is to make sure that he can always ride, that he's always pure of heart, and that he always maintains his pure intentions in terms of his approach to martial arts. That's what the story is actually about. And Goku becoming self-righteous and becoming a hero for the sake of feeling the validation and everything that comes with being a hero would be inherently impure in nature. It would essentially contradict what Toriyama wants to do with Goku's character, in the sense that Goku is no longer pure. He's not doing anything for selfless reasons. He's living for righteous indignation. He's essentially just trying to feel some sort of validation or stimulation from doing the right thing so he can feel good about himself. And there's a lot of things about Dragon Ball that are nuanced when it comes to that, particularly when it comes to how Goku is characterized, that people misunderstand and overlook. A lot of the chaotic decisions that Goku makes are a side effect of the fact that he is constantly trying to maintain that purity. And what makes Dragon Ball thrilling for me is that the more vicious and evil the villains become, the harder it is for Goku to overcome that temptation to essentially become no different than the villains and give into his desire for self-gratification in the form of getting satisfaction out of getting revenge or killing his opponent in cold blood. That is a very, very important aspect of Goku's character arc that's overlooked and misunderstood very commonly. So that's what I wanted to acknowledge more than anything else.
I'm going to go to Derek in just a moment. I wanted to add just one quick thing. Somebody earlier asked, why is it that Goku kills less in Z than in OG Dragon Ball? In other words, why is it that adult Goku kills less than kid Goku? And I had a whole video on that. I don't remember if I even did it, but the long story short is he learned the value of life from people dying around him. This is my sort of interpretation. Plus, he had a kid, and I've talked to. I don't have any children, but I've talked to a lot of people who have kids. And when you have kids, it changes you. And Goku having Gohan changed him. So clearly, he's a lot more merciful. But he's always been a good guy. It's just that he's even more merciful.
I would say he was just more emotionally volatile as a kid. Meaning meaning he was much more likely to just kill people as a side effect of his instincts as a kid, because he had less control over him. That's essentially why I think he's just a more disciplined martial artist by the time he's in Dragon Ball Z, and that's the reason he kills less. And also, anytime Goku is in a position of power, that's when he's most likely to be merciful. If Goku is in a position where he doesn't have control, he's less likely to be merciful because he doesn't have a choice. But Goku, by the time Dragon Ball Z rolls around, is so ridiculously powerful that most people, for the most part, are essentially at his mercy. So that also has a huge impact on his actions as well. So
yes. Okay. Derek, do you want to add anything about Goku's
Sure.
arc before
Yeah.
we close out?
Yes. On that subject, real quick. Yes, thank you for plugging the book again. On that subject, real quick about why he kills less. I think from a character development perspective, which is what we're talking about, it didn't advance Goku's character arc. It didn't help him grow to kill someone and then kill someone else and kill someone else. Toriyama didn't feel the need to add that type of violence, the finality of death, because it wouldn't help Goku grow. You know, like I said, Goku wants to conquer himself. And once he's got that philosophy in him, as soon as he defeats his opponent to the level where like Goku's satisfied that he has now transcended his previous level, he stops. He doesn't want to keep punishing them, and there's no need to kill them, right? So Toriyama understands that, and he doesn't just add gratuitous violence. Like we find in so many other stories where somebody, other I think it's lazy writing, frankly, where they just go and murder people. There's a lot more going on with Goku than that. So now I need a refresher of the question that you asked me, because we took a tangent.
He essentially just wanted to. He essentially just wanted you to give any final thoughts that you would have on Goku's character arc that you haven't given previously.
Anything we left off, that you think is important.
Thank you. It comes down to the fact that Dragon Ball and Goku's character arc, because Goku's the main character, is a story of literal and figurative transformation. If you have not seen that in the story at this point, there could be a few reasons for that. One is that you haven't been paying attention. Two is that you've been misled by other fans or influencers who have told you that a bunch of lies. I'm not going to repeat. That it's shallow, superficial action explosions and nothing more to it. That's false.
Idiots is what I call them. But yeah.
Yes. And then the third reason was that it could be that you don't have the knowledge of the symbols and the culture and the history and the language and everything else that went into the development of Dragon Ball over the decade-long span of Toriyama writing the series, and the decades of his life that led up to Dragon Ball that enabled him to write this series to begin with. Because remember, it wouldn't have even happened if Toriyama hadn't written Dr. Slump and made that the #1 series in Shonen Jump at that time. And it wouldn't have happened if Toriyama hadn't been watching Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee films on repeat while he was drawing Dr. Slump. And his wife mentioned that to his editor, Kazuhiko Torishima, who then forced him to make a Kung Fu manga. So there's all these happenstances that led to Dragon Ball's creation. And then Toriyama was forced to make it, and he drew from that well of inspiration of everything that he had grown up with and put it into a manga that he felt 12-year-old Japanese boys would enjoy reading and would find easy to understand. And he used Journey to the West as the framework for that adventure. And as a result of doing that, he brought in thousands of years of culture and history and concepts of spiritual transformation and cultivation to higher levels and the deities and everything that Jordan talks about and loves to discuss. There's so much to it. I saw a question earlier. Did Toriyama intend on making this deep philosophical story? No, he did not hit you over the head with it. He didn't want
very subtle.
Yes, he didn't want to give you a lesson or write a book on philosophy, right? Like he's not a philosophy professor who quotes all these other professors and tries to sound smart. in order to impress you and make you think that what he's saying is above you somehow, and that you need to pay attention to him because he's in the ivory tower and he has all the knowledge that you need to give him money for, or whatever he's trying to get out of it. He was trying to write an entertaining story for Japanese boys, and he put the things in it that he loved as a boy, like doing rock, paper, scissors to decide the match.
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs, World War II, sports like vehicles, and of course the entire Tenkaichi Budokai format was inspired by baseball tournaments in Japan, with middle school and high school baseball tournaments that would take Japan by storm every year, because all these rival schools would compete against each other, and they had this bracket system that was easy for boys, for kids to understand. You see, this team goes to this team, and then they meet at the final.
Single elimination tournament idea, which was used in martial arts tournaments too. So I mean, it's right there,
Yeah, it's perfect overlap, like you see in movies like Bloodsport, Jean-Claude Van Damme, things like that. So you get all of these things. Hey, Smugstick, you get all of these things together, and it creates something beautiful. And then you get Toriyama's genius storytelling and artwork, and you have this character who is so fascinating because he's pure of heart, but he loves to fight, and he loves to challenge himself through hard work, which, as you guys mentioned, is a Japanese thing. They have this strong work ethic. All Asians in general. Actually, I just saw a comedian. A friend of mine sent me a clip of a comedian making a joke about Dragon Ball.
I seen that
and he
guy.
Said, have you? Yeah.
Even when you die, you have to work, right? That one?
That's right. Yeah. Goku taught him that even when you die, you have to keep working hard. You never stop working hard when you're Asian. That's how Asians live and die. So I think that's really funny. And it was true, too. So Toriyama worked so hard. Goku worked so hard. Oh, and Jordan, I wanted to mention, you mentioned how Goku never loses his purity, no matter how tough the opponent is and the things he has to do to survive. And I remember in our chat, we talked a couple of years ago about Akira Toriyama's character arc, so to speak, as he rose up and became more famous. You mentioned that he never lost his purity and he never got consumed by his ego. And that is so popular with famous artists like rock stars, because you mentioned you're a musician and you've seen so many rock stars be consumed by fame and wealth, but that never happened to Toriyama. He stayed true to who he was, and he kept working hard. He kept quiet. He didn't want to be famous, and he put all of that into his characters, in particular with Goku and Kame Sennin. That those two characters have a lot of Toriyama's personality in them. So you look at all these factors and you put them all up on top of each other with these layers, and you realize that Goku has an amazing character arc from the beginning all the way up to the end, and where we are now and how it keeps going. And he keeps growing, and the people around him keep growing because of that. And I think that's part of the charm of Dragon Ball and why we love it so much.
Yeah, I started off a Dragon Ball fan and then became a Toriyama fan. I think that once you become a fan of the man himself, it enhances Dragon Ball tenfold. So.
And the more you understand him and the culture, it does make it better. Like that's the thing, man. Like I try to tell, like yesterday, I wrote this article on Twitter about dub versus sub, and I tried to explain to the dub fans. I know sub fans can be assholes, but the reason as to why we want you to watch it sub so bad is not because we want to ruin your fucking childhood. That's not it at all, bro. It's because we feel like you need to watch the real story. Because if you do, there's a hardest that I read what Smugsy said and it fucked with my head. If you do watch it if you watch the sub, you will, there's a 90% chance, and I say that based on people I've interacted with, that you're going to actually love the series more because you're going to understand it better. You're going to get the real story. You're going to get to hear some of the badass lines that were cut out of the dub. Like, example, Trunks telling Frieza, "So you must be Frieza." In the Z dub, in the Japanese version, he says, "I came to kill you all." What's more alpha, bro? And I asked Trunks' voice actor, oh my God, I'm forgetting his name now. That's my boy too, and I forgot his name. The guy who voices Trunks, bro. Why am I forgetting his name?
In English?
Yeah, I had him on the channel, and I haven't talked to him in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Eric Vale.
I love Eric Vale. I love that guy. Yeah, he was like, yeah, the first line is way cooler. Even he admitted it. So like, it's nothing to do with somebody trying to ruin your fucking childhood. It's more so to read or to watch the full story, and then you'll have a better understanding, and then you can move on to watching our videos, which then you're going to be in school, and then after that move on to Derek's books, because then you got the PhD program here. I put him over as the PhD program because, and I'm selling your book more than you are.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know you want me to, and I want people to read it. This, like, what was I gonna say? I think I accidentally took weed earlier because, like, my brain, I'm having short-term memory loss. I was gonna make a.
You're
point
probably
about
tired, bro. It's a 3.5 hour long stream.
No, right. I'm not tired.
For 3.5. Okay.
I can go all night, but the 60-minute man. No, but what I was gonna say about the books was like I said, the PhD program, which is super, because that's what I was gonna say. There's no other books out there like this one. Like there have obviously been books written on anime and Japanese culture and stuff like that, but I don't know if there's any other books that have been directly focused on Dragon Ball. And earlier, somebody asked, they were like, do you have to read Slump to fully appreciate Dragon Ball? And the answer is no. However, you should read Slump to understand Akira Toriyama and to understand his humor, because Dr. Slump is a straight up comedy. Like Dragon Ball has a lot of comedic elements. It is. One last thing here, and I was going to show this earlier. Everyone needs to watch this video because me and Jordan have discussed it. It came out 3 years ago. The difference between Goku versus Gohan as Dragon Ball leads. This is the video. It needs to get more views. This is the video where Jordan and I go into the difference between Goku and Gohan and why they're both superheroes, but they're very different. It has to do with like the way, because Toriyama didn't want Gohan to be another Goku. And to be honest, I kind of agree with him. Why do we need more than one Goku? We've got Caulifla, who has Goku's traits, and Vegeta too, but we don't need more Gokus. We've got Gohan, and he's separate. So watch that video. Again, it's called The Difference Between Goku versus Gohan as Dragon Ball Leads. Okay, we're out of here. Derek, anything you want to plug before we do you want to plug the what do you call it?
The giveaway again.
Why am I? Well, I'm hold on. The Perkzilla, yeah.
Yeah, that's my platform for getting in and winning this figure. So sign up for my newsletter in the giveaway. 800 total entries. You guys are awesome.
Wait a minute. What was that when we first started?
I think it was like 100.
There were 700 entries in the last 3 hours?
That's awesome. If that's accurate, that's awesome. You guys are great.
The check's in the mail. No, I'm kidding.
Well, yeah, and this is going to be in the mail soon to whoever wins it. But also, you can win one of my books of your choice, whichever one you pick. You can get print or ebook. Just let me know. It's up to you. So, but also on that topic of Dr. Slump, you don't have to read Dr. Slump before Dragon Ball if you read my Dragon Ball Culture books, because I show you every single way that Dr. Slump inspired Dragon Ball. Every time there's a new page and a new panel and a new sentence in the speech bubble that was inspired by Dr. Slump, I pointed out. So you can get all of that stuff that is in Dr. Slump by reading through Dragon Ball Culture, and do it as you read the Dragon Ball manga. Like read a chapter of the manga and then read a chapter of my book and see all the things that were in there, and the way Toriyama sometimes reuses his old jokes or his old character designs from Dr. Slump. And it just makes it even more fun.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even know that Dr. Slump had a martial arts tournament.
And it had a racing tournament too, which is one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, the Ran fan joke came from Dr. Slump.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I have the first 82 episodes of the original Slump anime, and I haven't watched all of them, but I enjoy it. You know what? Like Dr. Slump, let's talk about the anime here. It really comes off like South Park. There's a lot of South Park type of humor in it. It's not like political. They don't really make fun of celebrities, but you've got a bunch of kids running around basically being assholes, and it's funny, and it's like the sexual humor, like it's just it's great.
It's awesome.
Danny, would you invite Smug to a stream? Yes. My thing is, what topic would we discuss? If you can give us the topic, I wouldn't mind. I just don't know what topic would be best. But thank you, Derek and Jordan. Thank you. One last thing. Is it cool if down the road, I'm not saying it has to be like next week, that we come back and do like a Vegeta version of this and we go into Vegeta's character arc? Because that character is really misunderstood.
Yeah. That'd be fun. I saw some comments. People were asking for that. So I would love to do that.
We're up to already bumped up 70 entries. That's awesome.
Wow.
They're entering fast, bro. Like how? Let's see. I'm trying to hit refresh to see if like. Okay. Anyways, all right.
Let me point out. Danny's going to enter this giveaway as well, but this is why I use software. I have no control over who wins, so I'm not just going to give it to Danny.
You should, though.
He and I are friends.
But you should. You should, though.
Everybody has a chance.
You should do that.
You
realize that if I do win it, if I do win it, I'm gonna get blamed for talking you into giving it to me. Anyways, I'm sorry, Jordan. Go ahead.
Well, check out the DowDragonBall.com as well. I have a manga up on there. I've been neglecting it because life's just been coming at me so hard and fast, and I have to survive. But go
That's
check out
Derek's
man.
As well. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a great manga. I'm glad.
I have already had Miss Derek Fusion on the Super Magic show. So I've already invited Miss Derek Fusion before. But I will tell you this. This is a fun little announcement because somebody asked me to invite Derek onto one of the watch-alongs. But I want to let everybody know this. February 26th is the 40th anniversary of the Dragon Ball anime. Lance, aka Mr. Fusion, and I are going to be streaming on Twitch Dragon Ball Movie 2, Sleeping Princess and Devil's Castle. Here's why. Number one, it's Lance's favorite movie. Number two, when I get high, it's my favorite movie. That stream that I did when I watched Sleeping Princess, bro, because when you're high and you're watching that movie, all the guns from the demons, bah, 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 like it's so loud. And that movie has great sound design. It's really well done. And that's Lance's favorite movie. And we're going to watch it together on Twitch. Everybody can watch it with us. I've already watched it a couple of years ago on Twitch, but now it's with Mr. Fusion. And if that stream goes well, then in the future, as far as technologically goes, if we don't have any issues, then I can invite Derek and Jordan and other people to come on and do a watch along, which basically we just sit here and we watch the movie or the episode and then talk about it. And I think that'd be fun because I do it on Saturdays anyways, but I do it alone. But having special guests on would be kind of cool once in a while.
Sure. Yeah. What are you up to now?
Well, what do you mean?
In the series, what part are you at?
Oh, on Saturdays?
Yeah.
We just finished Dragon Ball Z episode 136, which is, from my perspective, the end of Act 2 of the Cell Saga, which is basically the end. Because, Toriyama, and this is something we could talk about, all three of us talk about in the future. Toriyama, even though he was a Discovery writer, each arc has a beginning, middle, and end. There's a 3-act. Yeah, and a 4-act structure. So in the Android saga, when Trunks goes back in time and kills Frieza, tells Goku about the future, that's the first act. Act 2 is 3 years have passed, the androids are here, and that act ends when 17 and 18 fuck up the Z fighters and leave them all laying. That's where it ends, and I'll tell you why, because it is a definitive ending to the story that was being built up. And then the next episode is Piccolo goes to Kami to fuse. And that's when Kami says, I'm sensing another evil. And that was Cell. So act 2 of the Android saga, and like it's right there. Yes, Mecha J, 4 acts. You should be coming in Saturday, bro. Buu Saga also has 4 acts. So then act 3 is Piccolo fuses with Kami, goes all the way to Perfect Cell, and then the final act is the Cell games and the defeat of Cell.
And in the manga, you can even count Trunks going back to the future and killing the androids and Cell as well.
Well, yeah, but to answer Derek's bro, Derek asked me what time it was, and I told him how to make her watch. I do that sometimes, bro. It's my autism. Yeah, we're watching this Saturday Dragon Ball Z movie 6, which is the second Cooler movie, color corrected, because we're watching everything. Like we're not skipping anything. We're watching everything up until GT. So we're gonna watch movie 6, and then in a couple weeks we're gonna start act 3 of the Cell saga, which is Piccolo going to fuse with Kami and the mysterious. Remember how Kami's like, I sense a mysterious presence. There's something going on. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds fun. Send me an invite whenever you want me to join. I'd be happy to.
I have a great time on Saturday. That's actually my highlight of the week. But yeah, if the LAN stream works out well, we can do. We have to pick the right time, and yeah. Anyways, let's get out of here. So, no, Wilfredo, I'm not getting that, bro. I wish. I'm not going. Anyways, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and we'll catch you in the next one.